Chapter 2041. Luo Qingtong. Naitai? None of the people present were unfamiliar with these two names. Previously, in the Hidden World, the matter between Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King Valley had caused a great uproar. Even the people from the Star Alliance Palace were involved. Everyone had heard enough gossip and naturally knew what glorious deeds Luo Qingtong, who was also known as Naitai, had done in these two families. Not to mention, at the entrance of the land of the deceased immortals, Luo Qingtong had personally admitted that she was the one who had dealt with the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. The conflict between Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King Valley was completely orchestrated by her. Not only that, but she also had the treasure map that the first-class sects and even the Star Alliance Palace coveted. Thinking of the various benefits that this treasure map could bring, and then thinking of the treasures on the corpse puppet that Luo Qingtong had released, everyone looked at Luo Qingtong with surprise and greed. This girl had too many good things on her. Previously, they had some doubts and felt that it was impossible for anyone to control the corpses in the land of the deceased immortals. However, after hearing about Luo Qingtong's identity, they could no longer doubt her words. After all, she had the treasure map of the land of the deceased immortals. What was the big deal about being able to control the corpses in the land of the deceased immortals? However, watching so many treasures disappear in front of their eyes, the crowd felt somewhat unreconciled. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong had even greater benefits. One had to know that although they might not have enough strength to get their hands on the treasure map, they could use it to trade with others. Presumably, those first-class sects would be very willing to use all kinds of promises and benefits in exchange for the treasure map in their hands. Not to mention, the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace had been looking for Luo Qingtong all this time. If they could capture the girl and hand her over to the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace, in addition to the treasure map, they didn't know how many benefits they would get. Perhaps they could also get a share of the good things in the forbidden area. Thinking of this, the crowd's gaze towards Luo Qingtong changed. They looked at each other, then slowly spread out and surrounded Luo Qingtong. Ridiculous! At this moment, an expert at the peak of the Sage Emperor stage sneered at Luo Qingtong, and said as he looked at Luo Qingtong, "Luo Qingtong, I think you saw that we were about to get a good thing, so you deliberately came to cause trouble." The group of people pretended not to see the little golden mouse on Luo Qingtong's body being intimate with her, and said blindly and coldly, "You let go of our prey, so now, use yourself to take the blame." They looked greedily at Luo Qingtong, thinking of the benefits they could get after capturing her, and immediately sneered. "Luo Qingtong, hand over the treasure map and the little golden mouse on your body, and call back the corpse and we'll spare your life." Another Sage Emperor stage expert looked at Luo Qingtong and said. His expression was sinister. They would naturally spare Luo Qingtong's life, but they didn't know if the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace would spare her life. Chapter 2042. So, you want to snatch it by force? Luo Qingtong's gaze swept across the group of people who were surrounding her. She raised her eyes slightly, and the smile on her lips was cold. These people coveted the treasures on her corpse puppet. She hadn't even made a move against them. But they couldn't wait to make a move against her? They wanted everything on her, and they weren't even going to let her off. Using herself as a bargaining chip? Sure. But they couldn't afford to pay that price. What do you mean by snatching? We just want to recoup our losses. The group of people said shamelessly. You let go of the prey that we deserve, so you naturally have to pay the price. And the price was Luo Qingtong herself. All right. Luo Qingtong looked at them, and the smile on her lips grew colder. She stood there, her red robes fluttering in the wind. She was alluring and domineering. Her beautiful face was filled with an evil and seductive aura. Since that's the case, come and get it yourselves. As she spoke, Luo Qingtong stretched out her right hand, and the life and death duality sword appeared in her hand. She suddenly grasped it. With a whoosh, a sword light suddenly slashed out from her hand. She had just advanced to the Holy Emperor realm, and this was a good opportunity to see how much her strength had increased. Bang! When Luo Qingtong's sword light slashed out, the people surrounding her also attacked. Everyone be careful. Don't kill her. Otherwise, we won't be able to get the location of the treasure map. That's right. Everyone be careful. We still have to hand this person over to the beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. With their hatred for her, they'll definitely pay a huge price to exchange it with us. Apart from that, there will be many other benefits. Let's not be careless and lose it. The group looked at Luo Qingtong as if they were looking at a mountain of gold. As for the girl's attack, they didn't even take it seriously. She was just an early-stage Holy Emperor. Although the girl's speed of improvement was monstrous, and she had advanced to the Holy Emperor realm in such a short time. But there was more than one Holy Emperor realm expert among them. Not to mention that these Holy King realm experts weren't weak. Under the encirclement, Luo Qingtong was just an early-stage Holy Emperor. Even a peak Saint Emperor, or an expert who had just entered the Saint Emperor realm wouldn't be able to escape their encirclement with ease. However, just as they were thinking about it, countless flaming auras flew out from Luo Qingtong's attack with a whoosh. This was the soul seal power of the soul of 10,000 flames that Luo Qingtong had comprehended. She's the holy strength and hers is, and it's her to attack. S's. Under these circumstances, Luo Qingtong's ordinary attacks were enough to crush regular Saint Kings. The sword light in her hand directly collided with the attacks of those people. In an instant, countless flames flew out and cancelled out the attacks of those people. The attacks of those Holy Emperor realm experts were completely shattered. Boom, boom, boom. Luo Qingtong's attack went straight in. The sword light was like a dragon, and it instantly slashed at those who were attacking her. Chapter 2043. What? None of them had expected their attacks to be split apart so easily. They had already retracted their attacks and were waiting confidently to capture Luo Qingtong. However, who would have thought that the situation would be completely different from what they had expected? Luo Qingtong's attack had directly shattered their attacks. The attacks of a group of people were actually unable to do anything to the Saint Emperor realm girl in front of them. Not only that, the splattering flames and sword light had also slashed their bodies. In just an instant, more than half of the people who had rushed to the front were killed by Luo Qingtong's sword light. As for the people behind him, they were also heavily injured by this sword attack. What's going on? Everyone was astonished. Luo Qingtong was only a Saint Emperor realm expert. Moreover, she had just entered the Saint Emperor realm. How could she be so powerful? Even with so many of them attacking together, they still couldn't do anything to her? Moreover, there were even a few Saint Emperor realm experts amongst them. No matter how they looked at it, the one who should be crushed should be Luo Qingtong. While everyone was shocked, Luo Qingtong had already leaped up again. She did not intend to give these people any time to react. At this moment, a sword light slashed down again. Annihilation. The extremely violent sword light seemed to carry an endless amount of light, as it swept past in front of him. Everywhere it passed, the fog in the land of the deceased immortals trembled violently. At this moment, countless auras and forces were constantly being destroyed and transformed by the power of Luo Qingtong's sword light, strengthening her attack. Bang! The end of the sword light cut the ground with a loud bang. Almost in an instant, it had cut a deep gully in the ground. Then, it slammed heavily towards the people who had besieged Luo Qingtong. The latter and the others were horrified. Those Saint Emperors could feel the power of Luo Qingtong's attack. It was enough to kill all of them here. Luo Qingtong was too powerful. How could she be so strong? How was this a strength that a Saint King could possess? Even an ordinary Saint Emperor realm expert would probably not be inferior to him in any way. Only now did they realize what kind of monster they were up against. Previously, they had wanted to capture Luo Qingtong and send her to the beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace in exchange for benefits. Now they had no idea how ridiculous their thoughts were. They were already very lucky that Luo Qingtong did not find trouble with them. But they still wanted to find trouble with Luo Qingtong. Everyone's hearts were filled with regret and fear. When they saw Luo Qingtong's attack coming, they hurriedly tried to stop it. Quick! Let's attack together. Stop her attack, then we'll immediately scatter and escape. Everyone's faces were filled with panic. Facing Luo Qingtong's attack, they immediately used 100% of their strength. They all used their best attacks and mobilized all the strength in their bodies to attack Luo Qingtong's sword light. However, Luo Qingtong's sword light could eliminate and transform everyone's attack into her own strength. Under such circumstances, unless it was a Saint Emperor who was much stronger than Luo Qingtong, only then would they be able to block Luo Qingtong's attack. Chapter 2044. However, among this group of people, there were Saint Emperors who were stronger than Luo Qingtong. There were not even ordinary Saint Emperors. They could only watch helplessly as the powerful sword light transformed all the power they had blasted out in an instant. Their attacks were all transformed into the power of Luo Qingtong's attack. This made her sword light even more majestic and filled with murderous intent. Bang! Their bodies were ruthlessly slashed by the sword light that swept past them. The Saint Kings at the front were the first to be struck by this attack. They cried out as they were chopped to pieces. As for the other Saint King realm cultivators, they were directly turned into ashes by the violent power of this powerful attack. It wasn't that no one wanted to turn around and run in such a confrontation. However, the power of the soul of 10,000 flames that Luo Qingtong had shaken off with her attack had long been suspended in the air. Countless fiery auras surrounded this area and turned it into a death zone. Anyone who was in this forbidden zone would die. Tragic screams resounded in the sky. The sky was filled with flying flesh and blood. Luo Qingtong's figure slowly descended in this scene of blood and death. Her fluttering black hair mixed with her blood-red robes, coupled with her gorgeous appearance and cold smile. In this hellish scene, it was as if there was a god of death and an Asura dancer who stepped on blood, and was bathed in blood and death. She gently stepped on the ground that had been shaken off by her aura, and was thus not stained with a trace of blood. Looking at the scene around her, her expression did not change at all. Since they dared to attack her, they should be prepared to die. Luo Qingtong's cold eyes swept across the crowd in front of her. Suddenly, she saw a figure who was wrapped in countless flames and had not been burned to death. The other party's figure was shrouded in the power of the soul of 10,000 flames. He was constantly screaming and struggling, but there was a faint power lingering around him that enveloped his body. It seemed that there was some kind of treasure protecting him, allowing him to resist the power that Luo Qingtong had arranged around him. This Saint King realm cultivator had already escaped 100 meters away from the area that Luo Qingtong had set up. If it weren't for the fact that all the people around him had been wiped out, Luo Qingtong would not have been able to see him. Looking at his figure, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes, and was about to raise her sword to end him. At this moment, Little Pig, who was beside her, suddenly saw something on the man's body. "Hey, wait. Master, it's the jade pendant that your father has." Little Pig's voice sounded, and Luo Qingtong's hand suddenly stopped swinging her sword. Her gaze swept past the martial artist's neck, and immediately saw a small jade pendant hanging on his neck. At this moment, the jade pendant was flickering with a faint light that enveloped the cultivator. It turned out that the power of this jade pendant was what helped this cultivator resist the power of Luo Qingtong's soul of 10,000 flames. And this jade pendant was exactly the same as the one that Luo Qingtong obtained from the Celestial Palace Protector. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and appeared in front of the cultivator in a flash. She raised her hand and withdrew the power of the soul of 10,000 flames. "Where did you get this jade pendant?" Chapter 2045. The latter had just escaped from the flame attack. Before he could recover from his shock, Luo Qingtong grabbed his neck and lifted him up. Looking at the jade pendant in Luo Qingtong's hand, the King Realm warrior did not think he was lucky. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said in a trembling voice, "Yes, I got it in the land of the deceased immortals." Luo Qingtong naturally knew that he got this jade pendant in the land of the deceased immortals, because this jade pendant was shrouded in an extremely strong death chi. Compared to the one she got from the Celestial Palace Guardian, this one was much more dilapidated and damaged, and its light was far less intense. It should be known that the jade pendant worn by the Celestial Palace Protector had been able to withstand Yi Qianren's attack for a while. The power of this jade pendant was far from what this jade pendant could compare to. If Luo Qingtong had not withdrawn the power of the soul of all flames in time, the jade pendant on this warrior would have been destroyed. Therefore, this jade pendant must have been obtained after entering the land of the deceased immortals. If not for this, Luo Qingtong would not have spared this King Realm warrior's life. Take me to that place. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She had been looking for Luo Jinghong's whereabouts. No matter what, she wanted to see him, dead or alive. Luo Qingtong originally planned to take the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint for a stroll in the land of the deceased immortals after her strength had improved. Firstly, it could improve the power of the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint. Secondly, it could also find Luo Jinghong's whereabouts. She did not expect to find information about Luo Jinghong's whereabouts from this warrior. Yes. The warrior had been frightened out of his wits by Luo Qingtong's attack, and his whole body was trembling with fear. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, he immediately nodded and did not dare to negotiate with her. He was afraid that the girl would be impatient and kill him directly with her sword. Luo Qingtong's strength was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. This King Realm warrior no longer dared to have any wishful thinking in front of her. Miss Tong, I'll take you there. He led Luo Qingtong to the place where he got the jade pendant. Along the way, he realized that Luo Qingtong was far more terrifying than what he had seen just now. Luo Qingtong seemed to be able to see through the fog in the land of the fallen immortals. She actually led him through without any obstructions. The sudden attack of those corpses had nowhere to hide from Luo Qingtong. When the martial artist saw Luo Qingtong kill the corpses that charged out, he felt indescribable shock and joy. Fortunately, he did not play any tricks with Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, he would not even know how he died. With the ability displayed by the girl at the moment, even if she did not use her terrifying strength, she could use the fog in the land of the deceased immortals to completely kill them. However, if he did that, he was afraid that some of them would escape. Thinking of this, the warrior looked at Luo Qingtong with even more fear. The two figures quickly approached the place where the warrior got the jade pendant. Looking at the familiar scene around, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She had an impression of this place. It was the scene in the text that she had seen in the holy book of the beast-taming King Valley. Chapter 2046. It seemed that this warrior wasn't lying. However, since Luo Jinghong's belongings had fallen here, did that mean that he had died here? Luo Qingtong furrowed her brows. In fact, when Luo Jinghong entered the land of the deceased immortals, it meant that he was doomed. After all, one couldn't enter the land of the deceased immortals before their aura weakened. Otherwise, even if one had the best immortal jade bone, he wouldn't be able to withstand the aura of the land of the deceased immortals for long. He would be corroded to death by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals. The people of the beast-taming King Valley had guarded Luo Jinghong outside the land of the deceased immortals for 7 days. After making sure that he hadn't returned from the original path, they left. Because if Luo Jinghong went deep into the land of the deceased immortals, he would definitely die. They had guarded the periphery of the land of the deceased immortals to make sure that he hadn't come out and died inside. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Her figure swept toward the place that the warrior had pointed to. It's there. The warrior pointed at the place where he had picked up the jade pendant with trembling hands. It was a patch of thick grass. 2 days ago, he and the people of his sect had passed by here and accidentally caught a glimpse of the jade pendant. So he had picked it up. After all, in the land of the deceased immortals, anything that wasn't corroded by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals was considered a treasure. He had hung the jade pendant around his neck. In the past 2 days, it had blocked several attacks for him. Especially this time, if it weren't for the jade pendant, he would have died under Luo Qingtong's attacks. Watch him. Luo Qingtong instructed Little Pig, and leaped into the grass. The place where the jade pendant had fallen was a little empty. Compared to the dense grass in other places, there seemed to be fewer weeds here. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. In a place like the land of the deceased immortals, ordinary weeds couldn't grow. Only the corpse grass that specialized in absorbing corpse aura and death aura could grow. The corpse grass specifically grew on rotting corpses. Generally speaking, as long as the corpse grass grew, There must be corpses below as nutrients. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. The bloody light in her eyes flickered as she scanned the area where the weeds were. Soon, he discovered that there were many corpses lying in a disorderly manner under the weeds. These bodies were buried deep in the ground. Their lying postures were very strange. Luo Qingtong glanced around and did not see Luo Jinghong's body. She frowned slightly. Suddenly, she realized that the way these corpses were placed was a little strange. Moreover, these corpses were neatly cut open with wounds on their bodies. As the aura from these wounds flowed to the places around them, one could see traces of human carvings. These marks had been carved for a very long time, and it was almost impossible to see their existence. They were also thickly covered by the soil. If not for the fact that Luo Qingtong's blood eyes could see the ground clearly, and could see the positions of the corpses and the wounds on their bodies, she would not have known that these marks had existed before. This is a formation? Luo Qingtong looked at these corpses in surprise. Using their own strength as the foundation, they had constructed a spatial cross-domain formation. Bang! Luo Qingtong raised her hand. Chapter 2047. Shua. Luo Qingtong used her hand as a sword, following the traces that were no longer visible, drawing on the ground of this patch of grass. The blood-red pupils in her eyes flickered as she drew and practiced while restoring. As for the Saint King Realm cultivator next to her, he was already dumbfounded. There were corpses in this patch of grass, and there was also a hidden array. This was something that the Saint King Realm martial artist did not expect. Boom. After Luo Qingtong restored this array, in an instant, there was a boom. The surrounding fog surged and countless Yin Qi and Death Qi gathered, forming a huge vortex in front of Luo Qingtong. However, this vortex was constantly rotating, and there was no sign of tearing space. This was not to say that the array drawn by Luo Qingtong was wrong, but that the driving energy of this array was not enough. If Luo Qingtong guessed correctly, this array was driven by the power of the eruption of the aura of the entire land of the fallen immortals at that time, tearing space. This array was left behind by Luo Jinghong? Besides this, Luo Qingtong had no better explanation. She carefully observed these corpses, and found that most of them were people from beast-taming King Valley. Some of them were Yin corpses. Luo Qingtong carefully recalled, and found that these people from beast-taming King Valley were indeed people she had seen in the images of the words in the Holy Book. They were all people who had chased after Luo Jinghong before, and then the latter was forced into the land of the fallen immortals, bringing some of them with him. These people from beast-taming King Valley were the people who were dragged into the land of the fallen immortals by Luo Jinghong at that time. In Luo Qingtong's mind, a picture was quickly pieced together. It was Luo Jinghong who deliberately entered the land of the fallen immortals. He knew that under the siege of beast-taming King Valley, he would not be able to escape, so he deliberately came to the land of the fallen immortals. His idea was not to perish together with the people of beast-taming King Valley, but to use the aura of the land of the fallen immortals to tear space and risk leaving True Spill Continent. When he entered the land of the deceased immortals, it was not long after the aura of the land of the deceased immortals had erupted. In the land of the deceased immortals, there should still be remnants of the powerful aura from the explosion. After confirming this, Luo Qingtong was very sure that this formation was left by Luo Jinghong. The other party was not dead, but had left through the array formation. This result was very gratifying for Luo Qingtong, because she didn't have to bring a corpse and bad news back to Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yanxi. Luo Jinghong's departure meant that there was still hope for him to survive. Although the one he had activated was a chaotic teleportation array, it was still very powerful. The so-called chaotic teleportation array was a random teleportation array. It was the easiest interdomain teleportation array to set up and activate. That was why Luo Jinghong was able to use the power of the qi eruption of the land of the deceased immortals and his own strength, which was not very high, to activate this Dharma array. However, at the same time, this formation array represented an extremely great danger. This magic array had no protection when it tore through space and teleported people out. Everything depended on luck. If he was lucky, Luo Jinghong could pass through this Dharma array unscathed and be teleported to a safe place. Chapter 2048. At that time, he would still have a slim chance of survival and would not be able to escape misfortune. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's eyes became very cold. It was a pity that her eye technique was not enough to go back more than 10 years and see where Luo Jinghong had gone through this array. However, as long as this array was still there, she would always have a chance to find out in the future. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately waved her hand, and the turf that she had lifted flew back and covered all these corpses. The thick soil also covered these corpses again. Soon this place was restored to its original state. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and made a mark that only she could see. At the same time, she set up a maze here to prevent anyone from passing by and destroying this array. In this way, when her eye technique improved to a certain level in the future, she could come back and restore this array to trace the place where Luo Jinghong had gone. No matter what, she wanted to see him alive and dead. Even if Luo Jinghong had died in the space turbulence, she wanted to confirm his death. Otherwise, she would never give up. After doing all this, the place where the grass was magically disappeared in front of them with a swish. When the Saint King Realm cultivator saw this scene, his fear of Luo Qingtong grew even more. Array Master, Luo Qingtong was actually an Array Master. And looking at the young girl's casual manner, her attainments in Array Masters were not ordinary. Combined with the various abilities that Luo Qingtong had shown along the way, the Saint King Realm cultivator was even more horrified. Because he knew that the reason why Luo Qingtong didn't hide anything in front of him wasn't because she trusted him, but because she already treated him as a dead man. And a dead person would not reveal secrets. Seeing Luo Qingtong turn around, he was very frightened. He quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Luo Qingtong. "Miss Tong, please let me go. I'm willing to listen to you and tell you everything. I promise I won't reveal any of your secrets. I dare to swear to the heavens that if I ever mention any of your secrets in this life, I will be struck by lightning and will never be reincarnated." The Saint King Realm cultivator's face was filled with fear as tears streamed down his face. Luo Qingtong's strength was too strong. With all kinds of strange abilities, he had no confidence that he could escape from the other party. If he did, he wouldn't have been so obedient as to bring Luo Qingtong here. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes at him. She never had the habit of leaving behind any hidden dangers. Most of his secrets had been exposed in front of the other party. If he were to let the other party off, what if he were to risk his life to tell the people of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace? A trump card that was exposed in the open was no longer a trump card. Furthermore, exposing one's abilities to the public was even more likely to lead to disaster. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She didn't give up the intention to kill. At this moment, the Saint King Realm cultivator suddenly said, "By the way, Miss Tong, if you're going to cause trouble for the people of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace, you can go to Broken Star Valley." Chapter 2049. Translation: The Saint King Realm cultivator was trembling with fear, not daring to hide anything from Luo Qingtong. Whether Luo Qingtong was willing to let him go or not, he was prepared to tell Luo Qingtong everything he knew. What if the girl was moved and let him go? In fact, this cultivator did the right thing. Luo Qingtong hated threats the most. Anyone who dared to threaten her, even if they didn't die on the spot, Luo Qingtong would make them pay the price later. But at the same time, she was also very particular about reciprocity and exchange of equal value. This cultivator sincerely begged for mercy, and deliberately told her about the people of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. Looking at him kneeling on the ground and kowtowing, she dispelled the idea of killing him to silence him for a moment. "Open your mouth." Luo Qingtong looked at him and suddenly said. The Saint King Realm cultivator was stunned for a moment, then subconsciously opened his mouth. Swish! Luo Qingtong flicked her index finger, and a pill entered his mouth at this moment. "Leave this place immediately in half an hour. Don't mention anything related to me in this life. Go." As she spoke, she directly drew a map for the Saint King Realm cultivator to leave this place. It was exactly half an hour, to ensure that the other party wouldn't have time to tell anyone about her in the fallen immortal land. As for what the other party said after leaving, it was his own business. Luo Qingtong didn't care. So what if the people outside knew about her? Not to mention whether they would believe it or not. Even if they believed it, so what? Luo Qingtong's target was only the people of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. As for her ability, it would be exposed sooner or later. She couldn't hide it forever. However, Luo Qingtong believed that with the intelligence shown by this Saint King Realm cultivator, he would use all the information he knew in exchange for reducing her murderous intent. He wouldn't risk his life just to expose his abilities. Yes. Thank you, Miss Tong, for not killing me. Thank you for sparing my life, Miss Tong. The Saint King Realm cultivator was so excited he couldn't even speak coherently. He had already felt Luo Qingtong's killing intent before, but he didn't think that she would really change her mind because of his words. He had not guessed wrongly earlier. This Miss Tong was really someone who repaid kindness with kindness and revenge with vengeance. As long as you don't play any tricks on her, tell her everything and sincerely beg for mercy, she will still let you off. This Saint King Realm cultivator felt as if he had just survived a disaster and kowtowed several times to Luo Qingtong. Then he hurriedly ran out along the route Luo Qingtong gave him, not wanting to stay for even a second longer. Looking at his back, Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. The pill she gave him clashed with the Yin Qi and Death Qi. If he didn't leave the land of the fallen immortals within an hour, he would die. So she wasn't worried that he would not follow her arrangement. Because if he did, he would die. Or he would court death himself. It was no different from killing someone to silence them. Let's go. Luo Qingtong waved her hand and let Little Pig return to her. Then she rushed to the underground nest. She wanted to help Sher Xiao recover his strength before going to Broken Star Valley. She didn't expect that the people of beast-taming King's Valley would expose the location of Broken Star Valley and call for help. Chapter 2050. It seemed that they had encountered a lot of trouble in the Broken Star Valley. Even the people of the Celestial Palace couldn't get the fifth part of the art of beast taming from the ground. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up as she thought about it. Since that was the case, she would go and cook for them. Luo Qingtong's figure flashed towards the underground lair, and quickly rushed back. However, as soon as she got close, she heard a series of screams coming from the front. Help! Help! A group of people were fighting with the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint in front of them. They were in a sorry state, except for a few people at the front who could fend off the corpse puppet's attack. The others were screaming desperately under the attack of the corpse puppet. Their voices were full of fear. Their voices were sharp, and one of the women who was about to be caught by the corpse puppet directly pushed out a young girl behind her. Go to hell. Yin Shi, it's all your fault for bringing misfortune to our Yin family. For our Yin family to have a descendant like you, we really have 8 lifetimes of bad luck. The middle-aged woman's voice was sharp. She was only a mid-level Saint Lord. Under the attack of the corpse puppet, she couldn't resist at all. She simply pushed Yin Shi out. Anyway, this B***TCH was useless to the Yin family. If it weren't for the possibility that she could seduce Luo Qingtong, they wouldn't have brought her to the land of the fallen immortals. This B***TCH deserved to die in the Yin family. It was better than bringing disaster to them. Thinking of this, the middle-aged woman suddenly pulled Yin Shi out from behind her and threw her to the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint. Her actions were straightforward and ruthless. Obviously, she had wanted to do this for a long time. Yin Shi had been pushed aside by the crowd. Now that she was in danger, she couldn't react at all and was pushed out by the middle-aged woman. Of course, even if she reacted, she couldn't resist. Because the middle-aged woman was much more powerful than her. She was just a girl who hadn't even reached the Saint realm. How could she compare with the middle-aged woman who was a mid-level Saint Lord? He could only wait for death with a look of despair. In fact, she should have died a long time ago, right? Yin Shi mocked him in her heart. If it wasn't to lure Luo Qingtong out, they wouldn't have let her live until now. Now this was merely a form of release. Thinking about this, Yin Shi felt relieved. These people didn't want to believe that she had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. In fact, she had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. The only reason she had spoken up for Yin Yan in the beast-taming King's Valley was because she also wanted to deal with Yin Yan. It was impossible for them to use her to lure out Luo Qingtong. Rather than being tortured by them and living in pain, it would be better to die cleanly. Thinking of this, Yunxi stopped resisting and allowed the corpse puppet of the great Yong saint to grab her. On the other hand, Luo Qingtong heard Yunxi's name from afar and immediately raised her eyebrows. When she saw the appearance of the girl being pushed out by the middle-aged woman, she immediately confirmed her identity. It was the girl she had met in the beast-taming King's Valley, Yun Yan's older sister, Yunxi. Chapter 2051. The other party seemed to be in a very bad situation. She wondered if it had something to do with her identity being exposed. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she immediately used her mind to control the corpse puppet of the great Yong saint and made it leave this place. She also marked out the locations of several Yin corpses that she had discovered on her way back, so that it could hunt and increase its strength. Go over and take care of it. Don't let it be hunted by others. The corpse puppet had been severely injured when fighting against those people previously. If not for this, Yunxi and the others would have been killed long ago. Luo Qingtong was speechless when she saw that the strongest among them were only at the peak of the Saint King realm. These people dared to provoke the corpse puppet with such little strength. They were really tired of living. Did they really think that the corpse puppet was easy to bully just because it was severely injured? If Luo Qingtong hadn't come back, these people would have all been killed by the corpse puppet here. At this moment, the corpse puppet of the great Yong saint had become ferocious because of the group of people in front of it. However, after receiving Luo Qingtong's order, it still forcibly withdrew its hands that were about to poke Yunxi. Then its figure flashed, and it disappeared in front of everyone with a roar. Seeing the corpse puppet disappear, everyone felt an indescribable lingering fear in their hearts. At this moment, Yunxi was prepared to be torn to pieces by the corpse puppet. But unexpectedly, the corpse puppet suddenly turned around and left. Her heart pounded violently. Before she could recover her senses, she suddenly heard a voice not far away. Yunxi, why are you here? Hearing this voice, Yunxi was slightly stunned. Then she raised her head abruptly and looked in disbelief at the young man who was walking toward her. Yes, it was the young man. Luo Qingtong had already disguised herself on the way back. She planned to go to Shattered Star Valley later, so she naturally couldn't reveal her identity. Her and Naitai's appearances had already been exposed. In addition, the girl's identity was too eye-catching and suspicious, so Luo Qingtong simply disguised herself as a man. In any case, when she was in the southern and eastern regions, she had dressed as a man. Ordinary people could not tell her true gender at all. As soon as Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, Yunxi recognized Luo Qingtong. There was no other reason. When Luo Qingtong opened her mouth, another voice was transmitted into her mind. I'm Naitai. With just a few words, Yunxi immediately understood the identity of the handsome young man in front of her. Looking at Luo Qingtong's completely different outfit and voice, Yunxi was very surprised. She almost couldn't help but exclaim out loud, but in the end, she forcefully held it back. She looked at Luo Qingtong and hesitated a few times. She didn't know how to address Luo Qingtong. However, the girl's voice rang in her mind again. Yijio. Luo Qingtong was not afraid that someone would guess her identity because of this name. In this world, there were many people with the same surname. Would the people of the Beastmaster Valley suspect everyone with the surname Yi? They would die of exhaustion. What's more, her disguise was the best cover. Sure enough, after Yunxi announced her name, it didn't attract much attention from other people. Chapter 2052. Who are you? What's your relationship with Yunxi? How do you know her? She interrogated him to get to the bottom of it. Yunxi looked at Luo Qingtong nervously, not knowing what she would say. If the girl couldn't explain, Concubine Li would be suspicious. We've met a few times before. Why are you questioning me? Luo Qingtong looked at Concubine Li with a half-smile. She was the one who had pushed Yunxi to her death, and her words seemed to be full of hatred for Yunxi. Did she have a grudge against Yunxi? Was it related to Yunyan? Otherwise, why would she look at Yunxi with such hatred? Luo Qingtong was thinking this when she heard Yunxi say to concubine Li nervously, "That's right, I met Yi Jiu on the way back to the family. He saved my and Yunyan's lives." Concubine Li, why are you questioning her like this? As soon as Yunxi spoke, Luo Qingtong immediately understood the identity of the middle-aged woman opposite her. Concubine Li? If she remembered correctly, Yunyan and Yunxi were sisters born of a concubine, and Yunyan was born of a concubine. This concubine Li couldn't be her mother, could she? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she heard concubine Li shout at Yunxi angrily, "Shut up, there's no room for you to speak here. If it weren't for you, you jinx, how could our family be so unlucky? How could we meet such a strong Yin corpse for no reason? It's not enough that you've harmed our family and Yun, or outside, now you're causing us trouble here. Who knows what kind of person you've brought here? If she's like that Luo Qingtong, are you trying to kill us all? You piece of trash, ****, why don't you just die?" Her voice was shrill, and her expression was vicious. She looked as if she hated Yunxi to death. The others looked indifferent and didn't say anything. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. "All right, didn't you want to know my identity? I'm a disciple of the Bright Heart sect." The Clear Heart sect was the sect of the group of people that had just been killed by Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and threw over an identity token she had obtained from them. This was something she had found on those people before. At that time, she thought it would be better to be prepared. She didn't expect to use it so soon. Bright Heart sect? Receiving the identity token that Luo Qingtong threw over, the Yin family patriarch's expression was extremely stern. That was a fourth-class sect. He stopped concubine Mother Li with a sharp expression. After checking Luo Qingtong's identity tablet, she immediately nodded towards Luo Qingtong with a respectful expression. "So little young master is a disciple of the Clear Heart sect. I wonder why you are here alone." The sects in the land of the deceased immortals moved in groups. Even a relatively scattered family force like the Yun family was the same. Because the danger level in the land of the deceased immortals was too high, and Luo Qingtong was here alone. Therefore, the Yin family patriarch's voice couldn't hide his surprise. "Oh." Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. "When I was chasing that Yin corpse just now, I got separated from the people of my sect." Hearing this, the Yin family patriarch suddenly had no more doubts. Not for anything else, but because he was somewhat knowledgeable. The Yin corpse just now had many traces of the unique techniques of the Clear Heart sect on it. Luo Qingtong's words matched this matter. Immediately he said to Luo Qingtong with a smile, "In that case, little young master, come with us." Chapter 2053. "Oh, I'm going there too." Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. She looked at the patriarch of the Yin family and chuckled. "My sect is going there to help Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. Are you guys going there as well?" The patriarch of the Yin family felt even more relieved after hearing Luo Qingtong's words. Because Broken Star Valley was full of people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace, if the young man in front of him was really related to Luo Qingtong, he wouldn't dare to go there with them. Now that the young man had taken the initiative to ask, he thought that he should really be a member of the Mingxin clan. He had just met Yunxi a few times before and saved her life. Thinking of this, the patriarch of the Yin family became even more enthusiastic toward Luo Qingtong. Yunxi covered her mouth to suppress the surprise in her heart. Luo Qingtong wanted to go to Broken Star Valley with them? But that place was full of people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. And there were also people who had been summoned by Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace to help them. What if Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed and she was discovered? She just wanted to tell Luo Qingtong to leave quickly. She didn't expect that the young man would take the initiative to ask to go with them. She looked at Luo Qingtong and opened her mouth. She didn't know what to say in front of so many people. Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. Seeing the worry in Yunxi's eyes, she immediately transmitted a message to her. "It's okay." Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She had been looking for an opportunity to go to Broken Star Valley. Now that she was going with the Yun family, it would be easier to hide and less likely to attract attention. As for why the Mingxing clan didn't go to Broken Star Valley, it had nothing to do with her, right? Luo Qingtong wasn't worried about how to explain it to the Yin family. There were so many dangers in the land of the deceased immortals. Who knew why the clear heart sex people were delayed? Of course, the reality was that they were all dead. But if she didn't say anything, who would know? They set off for the Broken Star Valley. Yunxi relaxed a lot after receiving Luo Qingtong's message, but she was still a little worried. Why do you want to go to Broken Star Valley? The people from Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace are all there. She and Luo Qingtong walked behind them, pretending to talk about old times, but in fact, they were very anxious. She vaguely guessed that Luo Qingtong might be looking for trouble with the Beast Taming King Valley. However, the other party's idea was too bold. That was a first-rate sect. Celestial Palace wasn't weak either. With the support of the Star Alliance, Celestial Palace had the strength of a second-class sect. If there were no accidents in the future, it was only a matter of time before they became a first-rate sect. If Luo Qingtong wanted to look for trouble with them, wouldn't it be the same as walking into a trap? Luo Qingtong couldn't explain herself to her, and she didn't like to expose her trump card for no reason. Hearing this, she smiled and didn't answer. Instead, she asked about Yunxi's situation. What's going on with you now? Did the people from Beast Taming King's Valley look for trouble with you? When Luo Qingtong saw Yunxi, she knew that she might have implicated her. It was even more obvious when she heard concubine Li's words. Presumably, the Yin family already knew that she had spoken for her and dealt with Yin Yen. Chapter 2054. It's okay, this has nothing to do with you. Yunxi looked at her and shook her head. At that time, it was her own idea to deal with Yin Yen, so it was natural that the people of Beast Tamer Valley would come looking for her. It had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. The girl didn't ask her for help. They just want to know your identity and whereabouts from me. In fact, Yunxi really didn't know anything about Luo Qingtong. After the people of Beast Tamer Valley investigated for a while, and confirmed that Yunxi only wanted to deal with Yin Yen, and really didn't know Luo Qingtong, they ignored her. On the contrary, the people of the Yun family were very angry at her, because she offended Beast Tamer Valley, and got involved with Luo Qingtong. The reason why they kept her alive was because they wanted to use her to lure Luo Qingtong out. At that time, they would be able to redeem themselves and rebuild their relationship with Beast Tamer Valley. Yunxi's tone was casual, but Luo Qingtong knew that things weren't that simple. Not to mention that the people of Beast Tamer Valley hated her to death. She didn't know what methods they used to interrogate Yunxi, but in the end, they confirmed that she had nothing to do with her. Yunxi's life in the family was probably very difficult, and she didn't know what kind of torture she had experienced. Looking at the people of her family, it seemed that they all wanted her to die. Just now, when Yunxi was pushed out to die by concubine Li, many people were watching from the sidelines and were unwilling to help her. In the end, Yunxi became like this because she helped her. Luo Qingtong knew what to do. You didn't use the thing I gave you before? Luo Qingtong had given Yunxi a beast-taming spell. Now it seemed that Yunxi didn't use it. Otherwise, if she could contract with a demonic beast, the people of the Yun family wouldn't treat her like this. After all, even if Beast Tamer Valley didn't accept a strong person who could control demonic beasts, the people of the Yun family should be very happy to have such a strong person. Yes. Yunxi nodded. She looked at Luo Qingtong with a hesitant expression. Then she spoke her mind. That thing. I keep having the feeling that it's a contracted demonic beast. It doesn't have a soul at all, and it's just a tool. I don't like that feeling. So in the end, she didn't cultivate the beast-taming incantation. When the people from the beast-taming King's Valley came knocking on her door, she directly destroyed the beast-taming law. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She glanced at Yunxi with some surprise. He hadn't expected that Yunxi would be able to see through the flaws in the Beastmaster Valley's method, and that she would be able to control herself and not practice that method. After all, many people, Even if they noticed that there was something wrong with the Beast Tamer King Valley's cultivation method, would still cultivate regardless of the cost due to their thirst for power. After all, being able to contract with a demonic beast would bring him a lot of power and help. Especially if he could obtain a powerful demonic beast, that would be even more powerful. Yes. She looked at Yunxi and nodded. The Beast Master Valley's method does have a lot of flaws. Since you didn't cultivate it at that time, then you don't have to cultivate it. When the flaws are solved, I will give you a complete beast taming incantation. She would treat it as compensation for the other party being implicated by her. Upon hearing this, Yunxi immediately covered her mouth. Chapter 2055. She had thought that she had sensed wrongly, but since Luo Qingtong said so, she had no choice but to believe it. After all, Luo Qingtong was someone who the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley wanted to capture at all costs. She must know a lot about the Beast Tamer King's Valley. Suddenly, she let out a low cry, then looked at Luo Qingtong and asked in a low voice, "Is the incident in the Broken Star Valley also related to the Beast Tamer spell? Otherwise, why would the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley suddenly expose such a place and desperately try to get what was inside?" For this reason, they did not hesitate to invite a large number of forces, and even joined forces with the people of the Celestial Palace. Obviously, they knew what was inside and desperately wanted to get their hands on it. Thinking about what Luo Qingtong had just said to her, and then thinking about the unusual behavior of the Beast Tamer King's Valley this time, Yunxi suddenly realized that the secret of the Beast Tamer King's Valley had been discovered by Luo Qingtong. That's why he desperately wanted to take out the thing inside the cave. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been in such a hurry. There was no need to expose the location of the treasure like this. The only explanation was that this place had already been exposed. Therefore, the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley simply exposed it completely, and they wanted to get what was inside at all costs. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded. She looked at Yunxi with a faint smile and said, "That's right." She was not afraid that Yunxi would know. Anyway, the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley had already exposed the location of the Broken Star Valley. The people who entered it would sooner or later know the purpose of the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley. Therefore, there was nothing to hide. Hearing this, Yunxi covered her mouth even tighter. She was afraid that if she was not careful, she would make a louder sound and attract the attention of others. She didn't expect that she had guessed right. Luo Qingtong was going to stop this and even wanted to get the Beast Tamer spell? Yunxi felt that she had never been so shocked and excited in her life. Luo Qingtong's idea was too bold. Yunxi originally wanted to persuade Luo Qingtong not to do this. After all, the Beast Taming King's Valley was a first-class sect. Coupled with the existence of the Celestial Palace and other forces, it was too dangerous for Luo Qingtong to go against them. But before she could say anything, she recalled how Luo Qingtong and the Beast Taming King's Valley became enemies, sneaking into the Beast Taming King's Valley and messing it up. Not only that, she even framed the people of Beast Taming King's Valley, causing them to become enemies with the people of Celestial Palace, making them take the blame for her. Yunxi thought about what she had heard from others or what she had personally experienced, and she felt that what she had to say was too weak. Luo Qingtong had already done such a thing, so why would she be afraid of going against the Beast Taming King's Valley? Thinking about this, the corners of Yunxi's mouth twitched slightly, and she didn't say anything else. Feeling nervous and excited, she came to the Broken Star Valley with Luo Qingtong and the Yin family. At this moment, many people had gathered in the Broken Star Valley. After hearing that the people of the Beast Taming King's Valley were calling for help, almost all the sects and forces nearby who were willing to come had rushed over. Those who were unwilling to come would not come again. When the people of the Yin family arrived, it was already late. Chapter 2056. After all, the time in the land of the deceased immortals was limited. No one wanted to waste time here and wait for others to come. The same went for the people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. After all, they had a bigger ambition. They wanted to finish things here before the aura of the Forbidden Land weakened. Then they would have a chance to enter the Forbidden Land and get the treasures inside. especially the people from Beast Taming Valley. That was what they thought. After they got the 5th beast taming incantation, the drawbacks of contracting demonic beasts would disappear. When they completely communicated with their contracted demonic beasts, their strength would be at least twice as strong as their current strength. Let's go. Seeing that almost all the people had arrived and had reached the number he expected, Beast Taming King Guguju's face turned cold. He waved his hand at the crowd and asked them to follow him into the Shattered Star Valley. The people from the Yun family were mixed in the crowd. Before they could ask about the situation here, they were pushed into the valley by the crowd. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, had already learned about the situation in Broken Star Valley from the conversations of the people around her when she entered the entrance. The truth was similar to what she thought. The people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace had indeed entered the Shattered Star Valley once. But they were not strong enough and had to retreat. The reason why they called everyone here was to ask them to help them enter the depths of the Shattered Star Valley. As long as they could enter, no matter how much effort they put in, they would be rewarded by Beast Taming Valley. Hearing these people's conversation, Luo Qing narrowed her eyes. The Beast Taming King Valley's offer was simply too generous. No matter how much effort they put in, they would be rewarded. Didn't this mean that there were many people who wanted to fish in troubled waters? Or rather, they didn't care whether they put in effort or not, as long as they had enough people? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly narrowed her eyes. Sometimes some small details were the easiest to expose the problem. There was definitely something fishy about the people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace calling these people here. They couldn't just be here to help. Others might think that Beast Taming Valley thought that more people meant more power. Therefore, as long as someone contributed, they would be rewarded in order to attract more people. But Luo Qingtong could see more than that. Would those people from the Beast Taming King's Valley make such a loss-making deal? No matter what level of cultivation they were going to accept them. Obviously, they were looking for cannon fodder to replace them. It was very likely that these people had become bait for the people of Beast Taming King's Valley. They were using them to catch something that they wanted to catch. As she thought about this, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and said to Yunxi, who was beside her, "There's something wrong here. Follow me closely later." Luo Qingtong might not have the time or energy to take care of Yunxi. If the other party could follow her closely, then they might have a chance to survive. If he didn't follow closely, then there was nothing he could do. Luo Qingtong would not go out of her way to save her. Yes. Yunxi nodded. She was very nervous and her palms were sweating. However, his eyes couldn't help but shine. She always felt that she seemed to be experiencing something extremely crazy and exciting. Chapter 2057. Perhaps it was because the girl in front of her was the most amazing and unbelievable girl she had ever seen in her short life of more than 10 years. She had a feeling that Luo Qingtong might really succeed. After telling Yunxi, Luo Qingtong let the corpse puppet of the Great Yong Saint come closer to her. That's right. After Luo Qingtong let the corpse puppet of the Great Yong Saint leave to hunt other Yin corpses, she let it disguise itself and follow her and the Yun family. Of course, Little Pig played a part in this. The latter had dressed up the corpse puppet that the Great Yong Saint had transformed into a lifelike state. Now he was mixed in the crowd and wearing a veil hat, so he didn't give himself away at all. All the questions and conversations were answered by Little Pig hiding in the corpse puppet's arms, so he was able to get away with it. After receiving Luo Qingtong's order, the corpse puppet of the Great Yong Saint immediately moved closer to Luo Qingtong's side. In the Yun family, the patriarch of the Yun family followed the crowd and led the people of the Yun family inside. At the same time, he asked Luo Qingtong, "Ninth young master, it seems that the people of your Mingxin sect didn't see them?" He wanted to get close to the people of the Mingxin sect. However, he didn't expect to see the people of the Mingxin sect after coming to the Shattered Stars Valley. And Luo Qingtong didn't seem to have any intention of looking for her sect. "Oh." Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. "I didn't see anyone of my sect. Maybe they were delayed by something and didn't come here." There were countless dangers in the land of the deceased immortals, so Luo Qingtong's words were not suspicious. After all, it was the truth. If they hadn't luckily escaped from the Yin corpses, they might have all died. How could they have the chance to come to the Shattered Stars Valley? Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, the people of the Yun family didn't have any special reaction. The patriarch of the Yun family was just a little disappointed. However, with Luo Qingtong here, it was the same for him to get to know the people of the Mingxin sect in the future. Thinking of this, he didn't say anything more. On the contrary, it was Concubine Li. After hearing Luo Qingtong's words, his expression immediately became sharp and unkind. Humph, I think she might be lying. What Bright Heart sect's disciple? Who knows if he's a fake? And you, Yunxi, don't think that you're all that just because you've hooked up with a disciple from a fourth-class clan. Her voice was high and shrill. Do they know that you've offended someone from the beast-taming King's Valley? Who knows when they'll kill you? She raised her voice and squinted her triangular eyes. It was clear that she deliberately said it for Luo Qingtong to hear, so that Luo Qingtong could stay away from Yunxi. This way, regardless of whether the other party was a disciple of a fourth-class clan or not, Yunxi would have no one to rely on. In fact, Concubine Li was very angry when Luo Qingtong appeared. She didn't plan on using Yunxi this time. She didn't plan on using Yunxi to lure out Luo Qingtong, so she would kill her completely. However, Luo Qingtong's appearance changed her plan. Once this young man tried his best to protect Yunxi, with the background of a fourth-class clan, unless the people of the beast-taming King's Valley took action, they would definitely kill Yunxi. Otherwise, the people of the Yun family would never offend them. However, the beast-taming King's Valley was a first-class clan. Chapter 2058. Concubine Li was afraid that she wouldn't be able to give Yunyan a chance to take revenge, so she wanted to discredit Luo Qingtong and make her stay away from Yunxi. That way, she could continue to deal with Yunxi and avenge Yunyan without worrying about anyone stopping her. As she thought about it, her voice became sharper and more high-pitched. However, Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She glanced at her and ignored her. What was the point of arguing with such a clown? Luo Qingtong wasn't in the mood for that, especially at a time like this. When the other party didn't die this time, and came back to talk to her, she might be in the mood to teach her a lesson. She would just treat it as a dog barking. Yunxi apologized in a low voice. I'm sorry. She is Yunyan's mother. Because of me, she is treating you like this. Before she could finish, Luo Qingtong glanced at her and said calmly, no need to apologize. She doesn't know who I am. Otherwise, she would have attacked me long ago. What does it have to do with you? They both had a grudge against Concubine Li, so Yunxi didn't have to apologize. Yunxi was taken aback. Then she felt that it was true. However, Luo Qingtong was being scolded by Concubine Li with a different identity, so she felt a little apologetic. After all, Luo Qingtong had joined the Yuns because she saw her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been scolded by Concubine Li. Yunxi was about to speak when Luo Qingtong's voice continued to ring in her mind. Moreover, someone will teach her a lesson. As soon as Luo Qingtong finished speaking, Yunxi heard the Yun's patriarch shout. Enough. Fourth brother, look after your woman. The Yun's patriarch's expression was cold. Concubine Li had dealt with Yunxi in various ways, both openly and secretly. After all, the latter was useless to the Yuns. But Yijie was different. He was a disciple of a fourth-class clan. The Yun family's patriarch originally wanted to use Luo Qingtong to climb up the Clear Heart Sect's road. How could he allow Concubine Li to speak to Luo Qingtong like this? He also said that Luo Qingtong might be lying, and that she wasn't a disciple of the Clear Heart Sect. Wasn't this saying that he was blind and had misjudged the person? That he couldn't even tell whether the other party was a true disciple of the Bright Heart Sect or not? From Concubine Li's words, Yun family's patriarch could tell that she wasn't belittling and ridiculing Luo Qingtong, but rather, she was mocking him. He immediately flew into a rage. If I hear any more rude remarks about the ninth young master, your family can forget about staying in the main branch in the future, he said coldly. Yes, the man who was called Old Fourth was Yunxi's father. Hearing this, he immediately agreed, stepped forward, and viciously dragged Concubine Li away. Although he usually doted on Concubine Li very much, But at this time, he still couldn't allow concubine Li to make trouble for him. Not to mention that her actions had already seriously affected his status in the main branch. Shut up. He directly slapped concubine Li's face. If you speak to the 9th young master because of Yin Yan again, you can get out of the Yin family. Yin Laoxi's voice was filled with anger. He didn't have any father-daughter feelings for Yin Shi, and usually indulged concubine Li to be harsh to the mother and daughter. But now, Yin Shi had already climbed up the ranks of the clear heart sect's disciples. Naturally, he couldn't let concubine Li go overboard. Slap. This slap landed hard on concubine Li's face, and in an instant, half of her face swelled up. She screamed at the top of her lungs, "Yin Laoxi you!" Before she could finish her words, in an instant, the situation around her changed abruptly. It was over. Chapter 2059. Translations Bang. Suddenly, the sound of an attack came from the front. Then miserable screams rang out in an instant. Hearing this, the Yin family and Luo Qingtong turned to look at the front. The people who were walking at the very front seemed to have suffered some kind of attack. In an instant, a large number of people screamed. Many of them were bleeding profusely, and the surrounding people were in chaos. What's going on? They looked around but didn't see any enemy. But the people lying in pools of blood in front of them told them that the enemy had appeared and was near them. Everyone felt an indescribable horror in their hearts. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes coldly. She looked very serious. It was for no other reason than the fact that what she saw in her blood-red eyes was completely different from what others saw. She saw that the depths of the Shattered Star Valley were densely packed with blood-red figures. That's right, it was the blood-immortal jade bone that she had killed and refined before she had fought with it before. At this moment, the depths of the Shattered Star Valley were filled with blood-red figures. No wonder the beast-taming valley and the Celestial Palace couldn't get the 5th part of the beast-taming incantation from the depths of the Shattered Star Valley. It turned out that the depths of the Shattered Star Valley were completely occupied by the blood-red immortal jade bones. Luo Qingtong had seen these blood-red immortal jade bones before, so she knew how powerful they were. She also knew that these blood-red immortal jade bones were always invisible in the eyes of others. There was no way to catch a trace of them, unless they were attached to a corpse. But even if they were attached to a corpse, they couldn't hurt them because they didn't have a physical body at all. After seeing the densely packed blood-red figures, Luo Qingtong roughly understood why the beast-taming valley had gathered so many people. They wanted to use these people as cannon fodder to restrain the blood-red immortal jade bones. No wonder they promised so generously. So this was their plan. Luo Qingtong sneered. As for the blood-immortal jade bones, when they saw so many people rushing towards their location, they immediately launched an attack. They roared and attacked the crowd. Their roars could only be heard by Luo Qingtong and the beast-taming King Guguju and other experts above the Holy Emperor realm. Countless sound waves and roars blew gusts of wind in the depths of the Shattered Star Valley. The surrounding spiritual energy was surging and rioting. The people who came in with the beast-taming valley didn't know what was going on, so they screamed miserably one after another. Ah! Just like those people in front of them, people kept dying in the crowd. At this moment, those who had been killed by the blood-red figures stood up shakily and pounced on the people beside them. They were possessed by the blood-red immortal jade bones. At this moment, they stood up again and pounced on the people in front of them like living creatures. Ah! Sharp screams rang out, and the surroundings were like hell on earth. Chapter 2060. These skeletons weren't weak to begin with, and they could even control the movements of the corpses. This meant that every time someone died, it would become a boost for the blood-immortal jade bones transformation. It was impossible to guard against them. The more they killed, the fewer people they had left. On the other hand, the skeletons grew stronger and stronger. If this continued, they would be completely annihilated here sooner or later. The factions that followed the beast-taming valley and were scared out of their wits. There were also people who immediately recognized the immortal jade bones after seeing them attached to the corpses. They're bloody corpses. They're the damn things that created bloody corpses. Their shrill cries caused the expressions of those who didn't know what was going on to change. Bloody corpses? Everyone who could enter the land of the fallen immortals knew about the terrifying existence of the blood carrion. Even those who hadn't seen them before had heard of them. Basically, anyone who encountered them would die a horrible death. Unless it was an expert of the Saint Emperor realm or above, if they were lucky, they might be able to escape from the hands of that thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. Were these things attached to the corpses the same damn things that created bloody corpses? Everyone's faces turned pale in an instant. They looked at the corpses of their companions that were controlled by the blood-immortal jade bones, and pounced on them. Only then did they realize that the corpses were indeed very similar to the blood-rotting corpses. The only difference was that one was a fresh corpse, and the other was a rotten corpse. But weren't rotten corpses formed from fresh corpses? Their faces turned even paler at this thought. It really is those damn things. Run, run. They didn't want to stay here any longer. They didn't know what these things were before. Now that they knew they were all the same damn things that created bloody corpses, and there were clearly many of them, how could they dare to stay any longer? Were they going to stay and become food for these bloody corpses? Their faces were filled with panic and fear as they hurriedly ran away. They were in the same state as when the Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace fled. It was just that those from the Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace had escaped. However, they were summoned here by the Beast-Taming King's Valley and the Celestial Palace. How could the latter allow them to escape so easily? If they ran away, where would the Beast-Taming King's Valley and the Celestial Palace find other people to die for them? After all, the news of what happened in Shattered Star Valley would spread if they ran away. Thus, when these people turned around, they discovered that the people from the Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace who were leading the way had all ran behind them at some point. At this moment, the Beast-Taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others were looking at them with a cold smile. Everyone, since you're already here, why are you in such a rush to leave? Since you've decided to help us, then help us. The Beast-Taming King Valley Master and the others had a cold expression on their faces as they waved their hands to signal for their men to disperse and block off all possible escape routes. Seeing this, the people from the other forces were in despair. Chapter 2061. It was obvious that they wanted them to die. By this time, they had fully understood the intentions of the people from Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. The reason why they had gathered them here was not to ask for their help. They were here to send them to their deaths. The hearts of the Yin family members were filled with despair. They had never thought that they would end up like this after coming to the Broken Star Valley. The people from Beast-Taming Valley had called them here to find a scapegoat. Together with the rest of the people, they could forget about going back alive. They all looked desperate. Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at the figures of the blood-colored celestial jade bones rushing toward them. She hadn't expected that the depths of the Broken Star Valley would be full of such things. Luo Qingtong could see through the transformation of the blood-colored celestial jade bones, but it didn't mean that she could break through so many of them and rush into the innermost part of the valley. It seemed that she couldn't sneak in and get the fifth part of the beast-taming incantation. The transformation of the blood-colored celestial jade bones was obstructing her in the depths of the Broken Star Valley. She had to deal with them first. Moreover, there were also the people from Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. Luo Qingtong couldn't let them use these people to restrain the transformation of the blood-colored celestial jade bones. Otherwise, it would be more difficult for her to succeed if the two families were free. What's more, even if she couldn't get the fifth part of the beast-taming incantation, she couldn't let the people from Beast-Taming Valley get it. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly had an idea. At this moment, concubine Li, who had just been slapped by Yun Laosi, screamed in a shrill voice. "It's you, little bitch. It's you who brought this disaster. Otherwise, how could the Yun family be so unlucky? We came to the Broken Star Valley to help, but we encountered such a thing." Concubine Li's voice was shrill. At this moment, she had completely lost her mind and rushed toward Yun Shi. "And you, a disciple of the Mingxin clan? I think you're this little bitch's lover. Both of you die together." As she spoke, she sent a palm strike toward Yun Shi. At the same time, She sent another palm strike toward Luo Qingtong. Concubine Li's expression was ferocious. She thought that they were going to die, so she couldn't care about anything else. Before she died, she would definitely teach these 2B****s a lesson. With a ferocious expression, she pounced toward Luo Qingtong and Yin Shi, and the aura around her surged. That sharp hand was about to touch Yin Shi. With her strength, Yin Shi definitely wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow from her. Seeing her move, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold, and she raised her hand. Clang! The life and death yin-yang sword appeared in her hand, and she swung it in an instant. Bang! Before Concubine Li could get close to Yin Shi, she was mercilessly sent flying by Luo Qingtong's sword. She screamed in a shrill voice and fell into the group of blood-colored immortal jade skeletons that had rushed over. In an instant, she was torn into pieces by the corpses controlled by the blood-colored immortal jade skeletons. The beast-taming King Guguju and the others heard the noise and turned to look. Chapter 2062. Luo Qingtong. They looked at the youngster. No, the girl standing in the crowd with a long sword in her hand. Luo Qingtong had taken off her disguise and changed back to her original appearance. She looked at the beast tamer King Guguju and the others with a faint smile and said, "Beast tamer King Guguju, Celestial Palace, how have you been?" Hearing her voice, the beast tamer King Guguju and the master of Celestial Palace looked extremely ferocious. "Bitch, how dare you show up in front of us? How dare you sneak into this group of people?" The beast tamer King Guguju and the master of Celestial Palace didn't expect to see Luo Qingtong here. They didn't know what this bitch wanted to do. Fortunately, they forced her to show up by using these people as cannon fodder. Otherwise, they didn't know what she would do after following these people into the depths of the Shattered Star Valley. The beast tamer King Guguju and the master of Celestial Palace didn't think that Luo Qingtong sneaked into this group of people just to say hello to them. Especially the beast tamer King Guguju. He knew that Luo Qingtong knew the secret of the Shattered Star Valley. This bitch. If it weren't for the fact that they were afraid that she would reveal the secret here and cause unnecessary trouble, they would have done everything they could. Otherwise, they wouldn't have risked everything to take out the thing inside the valley. The beast tamer King Guguju was furious. He looked at Luo Qingtong with eyes full of killing intent and hatred. This bitch had caused such a huge commotion in their beast-taming King Valley. How dare she show up here? What was she up to? This time they must kill her. Men surround her. I don't care if she lives or dies. The beast-tamer King Guguju shouted with a ferocious face. The Celestial Palace Master also ordered his men to attack Luo Qingtong. The young girl had the treasure map on her. As long as they could kill her, they would be able to obtain the treasure map regardless of whether she was dead or alive. They, the people of Celestial Palace, could at least get a share of the loot. Luo Qingtong, just wait for your death. Everyone's expression was ferocious. Apart from leaving a few people to guard the path leading to the valley entrance, the rest rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Watching them rush over, Yunxi felt indescribably nervous. Qingtong. She looked at the girl beside her, wondering why the other party would suddenly reveal her identity. The beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wanted her dead. Luo Qingtong was in danger. Qingtong, immediately change my appearance to yours, then quickly run. I'll help you block them. Yunxi gritted her teeth. She saw how Luo Qingtong had just restored her appearance in an instant. If the other party had such speed and helped her disguise herself, they would definitely be able to get away with it. With so many people here, they could just hide in any place. When they came out again, the people of the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace would definitely not know who they were. At that time, Luo Qingtong could directly change her appearance and leave. As soon as Yunxi said this, Luo Qingtong looked at her and smiled. No need. I'll be fine. Since Luo Qingtong dared to restore her identity at this time, she was naturally confident. Otherwise, with Concubine Li's strength, how could she need to use the life and death sword? He sent her flying with a single kick. She couldn't be any more dead. Luo Qingtong took out the life and death sword in order to let the people of the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace see through her identity. Chapter 2063. Luo Qingtong's eyes swept across the crowd. Then she said in a deep voice, "I'm sure you've heard it. I'm Luo Qingtong." She narrowed her eyes. "I can help you deal with the blood immortal jade bones, as long as you help me deal with the people from Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. I'll help you get out of this shattered Star Valley. What do you think?" Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows slightly. When the crowd heard her words, a commotion broke out. Luo Qingtong. She's that Luo Qingtong. Everyone present was no stranger to Luo Qingtong's name. Recently, in the hidden world, news about Luo Qingtong was all over the place. Of course, that was Luo Qingtong's other name, Night Eye. However, at the entrance of the land of the fallen immortals, most of the people who saw Luo Qingtong confronting the people from Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace knew that Luo Qingtong was Night Eye. The two of them were the same person. And Luo Qingtong was also an honorary guest elder of the Sky Yuan sect. She was a young girl. Yet she was able to make a name for herself in the hidden world among several large sections. Luo Qingtong even played the people from Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace in the palm of her hand. If Fang Jingyu hadn't forced her to swear on the man beside her, she wouldn't have taken the initiative to reveal her identity. The misunderstanding between Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace wouldn't be resolved so easily. And the people from Beast Taming King Valley couldn't deal with Luo Qingtong. Such a legendary girl. Even those who didn't pay much attention to the outside world inevitably heard about her. And this wasn't the main reason why everyone was restless. They were restless because of the treasure map in Luo Qingtong's hands. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's words were said by another person. Even if the other party's reputation was greater than Luo Qingtong's, and the commotion she caused in the hidden world was more intense, no one would be willing to listen to her. But Luo Qingtong was different. The girl had the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals. This was confirmed by the people of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace from the beginning. And it was precisely because of this treasure map that the situation between the two sides had become so tense. And that treasure map was with Luo Qingtong. This was what Luo Qingtong had admitted in front of everyone. Therefore, everyone was only pleasantly surprised by Luo Qingtong's words, and did not question them. After all, the girl had that treasure map. Perhaps she really did have a way to deal with these blood-colored immortal jade bone transformations. Since she was trapped in the Broken Star Valley with them, she wouldn't risk her own life. With this thought in mind, everyone's spirits were lifted. Come on. Let's protect Luo Qingtong together. Don't let those bastards from Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace hurt her. Among the crowd of people, some of the more powerful experts from the sects immediately ordered. They led the experts from their sects to surround Luo Qingtong, encircling her, Yunxi, and the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint. When the others heard this, they also recovered from their shock and gathered around this group of people from the sect. Chapter 2064. Bastard. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the Master of Celestial Palace were both anxious and angry when they saw this scene. They had never expected that Luo Qingtong would say such a thing. She could help those people deal with those damn things in the Broken Stars Valley? How could this be possible? They were both shocked and confused. This was especially true for the Beast Taming King Valley's Valley Master, Elder Dark, and the others. Was Luo Qingtong bluffing to trick these people into protecting her? Or did she really have a way? If she really had a way, they had an unspeakable bad feeling in their hearts. If Luo Qingtong really had a way to deal with these blood-red figures, then it would be a bad move for them to gather all these people and force them to their deaths. These people were forced to die by them, and Luo Qingtong happened to be able to save them. How could they not listen to Luo Qingtong? With the help of these people, Luo Qingtong went from being alone to being extremely powerful. She was completely capable of dealing with those blood-red figures. In this way, if she managed to break through the blockade of those blood-red figures, then all of their efforts this time would have been for nothing. Thinking of this, Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were both anxious and angry in an instant. Do it. Kill Luo Qingtong quickly. Don't worry about the others. Kill those who stand in our way. A bad feeling arose in their hearts. Beast tamer King Guguju, and the others had suffered a great loss in the hands of Luo Qingtong before. Regardless of whether Luo Qingtong's words were true or not, it did not matter whether they were true or not. They couldn't give her any chance to make a comeback. Kill her. Beast tamer King Guguju shouted coldly. Not far from Luo Qingtong, the people of the Yun family were already dumbfounded. When Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed, they had hurriedly distanced themselves from her. They had never thought that the disciple of the Bright Heart sect they had met would be Luo Qingtong, who was wanted by Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace. What was even more unexpected was that she knew that the people of Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace were here, and still came to the Broken Stars Valley. What kind of bear's heart and leopard's guts did she eat? When Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed, the people had hurriedly distanced themselves from Luo Qingtong, fearing that they would be implicated by Luo Qingtong if they were not careful. There were also people of the Yun family, who wanted to use Luo Qingtong's identity to establish a relationship with Beast Tamer Valley. They wanted to tell the people of Beast Tamer Valley that they had deliberately tricked Luo Qingtong to come here, so that the people of Beast Tamer Valley would let them go. However, who would have thought that before their plan could be carried out, Luo Qingtong's situation would immediately reverse. The girl said that she could deal with those damn things of Beast Tamer Valley, and the people of other forces directly wanted to protect her. The people of the Yun family were indescribably dumbfounded. If Luo Qingtong could really deal with those damn things, then how stupid were they to hurriedly withdraw from her side? Especially when they wanted to use Luo Qingtong's matter to gain the favor and recognition of the beast-taming King Valley, and beg the other party to let them go. How stupid were they? Chapter 2065. They would be lucky if the other party didn't kill them. How could they expect the other party to protect them? On the other hand, Luo Qingtong was different. Didn't they see that Yunxi had been standing beside Luo Qingtong since the beginning? Now she was being protected by everyone. This was a great opportunity for them. They obviously had this opportunity, but they gave it up. As everyone thought about it, they instantly regretted it so much that their hearts, livers, spleens, and stomachs ached. While everyone in the Yun family was regretting their decision, Yunxi looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise and shock. She didn't expect things to turn around like this. Her hand was still tightly grasping Luo Qingtong's sleeve. She wanted her to disguise herself, so that the two of them could switch places, and Luo Qingtong could leave safely. But she didn't expect Luo Qingtong to solve everything with just a few words. But was Luo Qingtong telling the truth? Could it be that she said it deliberately, so that these people could protect them? If that was the case, what would happen if someone saw through it? Yunxi was very conflicted. From the bottom of her heart, she was very willing for Luo Qingtong's words to be true. This way, both of them would be fine, along with the others. But from a rational point of view, she was worried that this was just a trick for Luo Qingtong to get away. If this was the case, when they were exposed later, there would be a bigger backlash. While Yunxi was feeling uneasy, Luo Qingtong glanced at the people from the Beastmaster Valley and the Celestial Palace who were rushing over desperately. Then she said to the people around her, "Let's go." Rush in the direction of the valley. In the depths of the Broken Star Valley was the gathering place of those bloody figures. At this moment, those bloody figures, together with the corpses they controlled, were rushing toward the people of the various forces. Even without Luo Qingtong's order, the people of these forces had no choice but to face these bloody figures and the corpses they controlled. After all, their rear was blocked by the people from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. The two forces were strong enough to stop all of them, making it impossible for them to break through the blockade and get out of Shattered Star Valley. Now that they heard Luo Qingtong's order, they only hesitated for a moment. Then, they gritted their teeth and rushed in the direction of the bloody figures. After all, Luo Qingtong said that she could deal with these things. As a result, the place where the blood-red figures gathered was their only chance of survival. After all, even if they worked together, they might not be able to deal with the people from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. He might as well charge in. With that thought in mind, everyone immediately took action. The people from the Yun family were left behind. They were both regretful and afraid, but they still followed Luo Qingtong and the others in the direction of the bloody figures. The people from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace became even more anxious. B***TCH, does she really have a way? The Beast Master Guguju and the Master of Celestial Palace were indescribably angry. The bad feeling in their hearts was getting heavier and heavier. They hurriedly led their people to chase after Luo Qingtong and the others, trying to stop them all. Chapter 2066. At that time, they had indeed quietly surrounded a group of people from different forces. But now when Luo Qingtong led these people to retreat, they couldn't catch up. Not only that, but as they rushed forward, those blood-colored figures also rushed towards them. As a result, before they could catch up to Luo Qingtong and the others, the latter had already rushed into the encirclement of those blood-colored figures. One of the sect disciples who was at the periphery of the encirclement was the first to confront the blood-colored figures and the corpses they controlled. When the mental power of the blood-colored figures blasted into his mind, he immediately let out a sharp cry and scratched himself desperately like a madman. Seeing this scene, the group of people surrounding Luo Qingtong were shocked and quickly looked at Luo Qingtong, who was surrounded by them. "Miss Tong, look at this." Everyone was anxious. Luo Qingtong said that she could deal with these blood-colored figures. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Don't be unable to deal with them. Otherwise, all of them would have to die here. Damn it, these bastards from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. They actually forced them to come to their deaths. When they leave this place, they must make the despicable actions of Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace known to the public. Let everyone in the hidden world see how vicious and shameless their thoughts were. At that time, they would unite their sects and seek justice from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. They would let the other party know that weak sects like theirs were not so easily bullied. Everyone gritted their teeth in hatred. If it weren't for this, they wouldn't have helped Luo Qingtong so decisively and stood on her side. When everyone looked over, Luo Qingtong's blood-colored eyes flashed. She had already clearly seen the location of the mental power attack that rushed into the mind of that sect disciple. Bang! She raised her hand and in an instant, the light from the life and death duality sword in her hand swept out and slashed towards that sect disciple. When they saw this scene, everyone's faces were instantly filled with shock. Was this the method that Luo Qingtong said to deal with those blood-colored figures? Directly slashing the person. But when facing those blood-colored figures, they also did the same thing. As long as someone was controlled, they would immediately attack. In this way, when one person was killed, the blood-colored figure's assistance would not continue to increase. But this was completely treating the symptoms and not the root cause. The more people on their side were killed, the weaker their side's strength. On the contrary, the blood-red figures didn't suffer any damage after the first person was killed. They continued to charge towards the second person, and continued to control him. They couldn't continue to kill each other like this, right? If that's the case, they'll annihilate us sooner or later. If it weren't for this, they wouldn't have escaped from the valley. They did not expect Luo Qingtong to use the same method as them. What was the point of this? In the end, wouldn't they still die? They knew that this method wouldn't work, so they raced to escape. Everyone's hearts were filled with indescribable disappointment and anger. They felt that they had been inexplicably played by someone. Chapter 2067. Bang! Luo Qingtong's sword light landed on the disciple's body, but it didn't leave a single mark on him. However, the disciple held his head and screamed in an instant. His scream was so shrill that it made one's hair stand on end. Obviously, it wasn't a human scream. It carried an extremely sharp and resounding aura of violence and death. In the next second, with a bang, everyone watched as a faint blood-red mist drifted out of his mind. Then, with a boom, it exploded into a cloud of blood mist in front of everyone. At the same time, an explosion came from somewhere deep in the Broken Stars Valley in the distance. Then blood gurgled out of it, leaving a blood-red mark on the ground. This is... Everyone opened their eyes wide in an instant. Was the thing that Luo Qingtong hacked out the culprit of the bloody carrion? Those damn things that they couldn't see and couldn't do anything to. Everyone was shocked. However, Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. She withdrew the life and death sword in her hand. Then she narrowed her eyes and flicked her fingers. Swish, 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 swish. She flicked out streaks of aura into the bodies of the blood-red figures in front of her, leaving a clear mark on their bodies. Do you see the mark in their bodies? Hit them. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. The reason why they couldn't defeat these blood-red figures was that they couldn't resist the spiritual power attack of these blood-red figures, and couldn't resist the control of their spiritual power. Secondly, they couldn't see where these blood-red figures were, so they couldn't attack them at all. Under the superposition of these two factors, the blood-red figures could only attack them, while they couldn't fight back. However, at this moment, Luo Qingtong used her aura to leave a mark on those blood-red figures. The crowd only needed to attack according to her aura. It was equivalent to the blood-red figures losing their ability to hide completely. In this way, the crowd could deal with them. After all, things that couldn't be seen or touched were the scariest. As for things that could be seen and touched, no matter how ferocious they were just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. As soon as Luo Qingtong did this, everyone was pleasantly surprised. They attacked according to Luo Qingtong's instructions, only to find that the thing that had been marked by Luo Qingtong's aura suddenly burst into a bloody mist under their attacks. The blood immortal jade bone's transformation was finally broken. Everyone was shocked and pleasantly surprised. They huddled together and relied on Luo Qingtong to push forward. They attacked the bloody figures that had been marked by Luo Qingtong's aura. Luo Qingtong would deal with those who were carelessly controlled by the bloody figure. The girl brandished the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand. Every time a silvery white sword light flashed, she would reap the transformation of a crimson immortal jade bone. No one knew how Luo Qingtong did it. The crowd needed several people to combine their attacks to barely eliminate the transformation of these crimson immortal jade bones. Chapter 2068. A single person's thoughts were useless against it. Only when everyone worked together would they be able to kill it. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, could easily kill it with her sword. Not only that, her sword light didn't hurt anyone. It was as if it was specifically targeted at these crimson figures. Everyone vaguely guessed that it was probably because Luo Qingtong found a way to deal with these crimson figures from the treasure map. Everyone was only guessing and didn't dare to confirm it. Only Luo Qingtong and Little Pig understood that this wasn't the effect of the treasure map. It was because the sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand was the sword light of the life blade. The blood immortal jade bone's form was equivalent to a spirit. Its nature was similar to that of a ghost. Luo Qingtong's life blade wasn't a sword for killing. It was a sword that could increase one's strength and replenish one's aura. It carried with it the power of vitality. When she swung her sword, the crimson figure's mental attacks that rushed into the martial artist's minds were instantly cut off. Not only that, but the crimson figures formed by the blood immortal jade bone were also killed by the boundless life force contained in the life blade. After all, life force was also a type of mental power. Under Luo Qingtong's control, it could naturally be transformed into an attack. Bang bang bang. The mental attacks that rushed into the martial artists' bodies were all cut off. And if the crimson figures that rushed into the martial artists' bodies and tried to control them, they were also killed by Luo Qingtong's life blade. Along the way, Luo Qingtong and the others kept moving forward. On the other hand, the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace's members who were chasing after them were in for a hard time. They didn't have Luo Qingtong's ability to see through the existence of the crimson figures and kill them. After several attacks, they figured out that the crimson figures that were tainted with Luo Qingtong's aura were the ghostly things that controlled the blood-rotting corpses. However, they didn't have anything like Luo Qingtong's life blade, which could kill those bloody figures that invaded and controlled their people. Therefore, even though they were able to kill the blood-colored figures that were tainted with Luo Qingtong's aura, they were still able to do so. However, if he didn't avoid the attacks of these blood-red figures and allowed them to enter his mind and possess him, he would be finished. The people from beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wanted to kill the bloody figures and the corpses they controlled. At the same time, he had to deal with their attacks and the people around him who were suddenly controlled by these blood-red figures. He was not as relaxed and comfortable as Luo Qingtong and the others when dealing with these bloody figures. The beast tamer King Guguju and the Celestial Palace Master were indescribably furious, but there was no better way. They could only endure the attacks of the blood-red figures and continue forward. They couldn't let Luo Qingtong and the others take the lead. After all, other people didn't know what was in this broken star valley, but Luo Qingtong did. Moreover, if the other party obtained the fifth beast-taming secret art, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not to mention whether Luo Qingtong's beast-taming gift was fake or not, just based on the enmity between them and the other party. After obtaining the beast-taming secret art, she definitely wouldn't give it to them. Moreover, in order to take revenge on them, Luo Qingtong might even make the beast-taming secret art in her hands public. In that case, their beast-taming King's Valley would be finished. Thinking of this, the people from beast-taming King's Valley couldn't help but shudder in their hearts. They hurriedly rushed forward even more desperately. Chapter 2069. Luo Qingtong and the others had already rushed into the innermost area. In the deepest part of the Shattered Star Valley, there was an extremely deep cave. There was a faint light inside, but they couldn't see clearly what was inside. But what was certain was that the fifth beast-taming art that the people of beast-taming King Valley needed was inside. Let's go in. Luo Qingtong's eyes slightly narrowed, and she said to the people around her. After walking all the way here, the people of the various forces were already incomparably convinced by her words. If it weren't for the girl leading them in, they would have already been blocked by the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. They could only become cannon fodder and be killed by those blood-colored figures. Now that Luo Qingtong told them to rush in, they didn't have any hesitation. Behind them were the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. The latter and the others were chasing after them at this moment. If they were caught by them, they would be in trouble. They could only rush into the depths of the cave and see what was inside. The people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace would do anything to get what was inside. Presumably, it would become the thing they relied on to leave here. Thinking of this, the group hurriedly rushed into the cave. And the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace had already forced their way here. They landed not far behind Luo Qingtong and the others, watching them rush into the cave. In an instant, the veins on beast-taming King Guguju's forehead were about to explode. Quick! Don't care about those blood-colored figures anymore. Rush to the front and stop Luo Qingtong. He angrily shouted. And when the higher-ups of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace heard his words, they suddenly stared blankly. What did beast-taming King Guguju mean by this? At this moment, the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace were fighting those blood-colored figures that were rushing in from all directions. It was already very strenuous. The beast-tamer King Guguju said this. Could it be that he wanted to beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace's upper echelons were still thinking about this when they heard beast-taming King Guguju's cold voice? Don't bother with these low-level disciples, let's charge over. The we he was referring to was naturally the higher-ups of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. Beast-tamer King Guguju's words clearly indicated that he wanted to give up on the lower-level disciples of Beast-tamer Valley and Celestial Palace, and only bring the higher-level experts of Beast-tamer Valley and Celestial Palace forward. This would increase their speed, but at the same time, the disciples of Celestial Palace and Beast-taming King's Valley would all become cannon fodder. It was already difficult for them to deal with these crimson figures. Now that the group of high-level experts had left, these people who were left behind would all become the sacrificial lambs to attract and restrain the crimson figures. They would die without a doubt. Valley Master, please don't. The disciples of Beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wailed. The higher-ups of Celestial Palace and Beast-taming King's Valley were also indescribably bewildered. Abandoning their disciples like this was too difficult a choice to make. After all, these disciples who had followed them to the fallen immortal land were all elites of their sections. They were the cream of the crop. If they abandoned all of them here, The strength of their sects would be greatly damaged after leaving the fallen immortal land in the future. Chapter 2070. They didn't know how long it would take for them to train another batch of elites like this. The entire middle and lower echelons of the sect would be in a state of shortage. While everyone was hesitant, the beast tamer King Guguju spoke again with a ruthless look on his face. If there are no more disciples, we can find and train them again. But if Luo Qingtong gets what's inside today, our beast tamer valley will be finished. And your celestial palace? He turned to the celestial palace master. You have a part in gathering these people here to die. And you have a grudge against Luo Qingtong. Do you think she'll let us go after she gets what's inside? Our beast tamer valley won't be able to get away with it, and so will your celestial palace. Don't forget that she still has the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals in her hands. If she gets what she wants today, then the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals might be hers. The stronger she is, the more dangerous it will be for our two sects. It's up to you to decide. The celestial palace master's face turned cold as soon as he heard Guguju's words. In fact, he was already thinking of backing out just now. To him, Celestial Palace was only here to help the Beast Tamer Valley. Now that they couldn't help, and there was the risk of being implicated, he naturally didn't want to continue. Not to mention that the Beast Tamer King Guguju wanted him to give up on the disciples of Celestial Palace? How could that be? Celestial Palace didn't need to spare any effort to help the Beast Tamer Valley. Were they willing to destroy the foundation of their sect just for the sake of some benefits that the other party had promised them? He wasn't an idiot. However, the Beast Tamer King Guguju's words reminded him of something. They had a grudge against Luo Qingtong. If Luo Qingtong got what she wanted in the Shattered Star Valley, it would seem that the Beast Tamer Valley would be at a disadvantage, but Celestial Palace would also be in big trouble in the future. It seemed that they had to help the Beast Tamer Valley no matter what. No matter what, Luo Qingtong couldn't get what was inside. What is that thing inside? He couldn't help but ask Guguju. The Beast Tamer Valley's most complete spell. At this point, the Beast Taming King Valley Master could no longer hide the truth. With a gloomy expression, he said to the Celestial Peak Palace Master and the others, "Now you know why our Beast Taming King's Valley must stop her from obtaining the items inside, right? If Luo Qingtong's Luo Qingtong, then Luo Qingtong's S spells Luo Qingtong's. S Luo Qingtong? And you people of Celestial Palace may not be able to escape. If Luo Qingtong got the 5th Beast Tamer spell, and she really had the Luo Qingtong's talent, then Beast Tamer Valley's outstanding position in the hidden world would be completely destroyed. And the people of Celestial Palace, who had a grudge against her, wouldn't be able to get any benefits. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong still had the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals. If she had the chance to get her hands on the treasures inside, then their two families would be done for. Chapter 2071. At this time, even if the master of Celestial Palace was reluctant, there was nothing he could do. They had to help the people of Beast Taming King's Valley. Hearing his words, the group of disciples of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wailed even louder. Facing the attacks of the blood-colored figures, the group of people felt an indescribable despair in their hearts at the abandonment of the higher-ups. From time to time, no one thought of resisting, but at this time, they were already doing their best to deal with the attacks of the blood-colored figures. There was simply no way to resist or deal with Beast Taming King Guguju and the others. They could only watch helplessly as they abandoned them and left. The group of disciples of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace never thought that. They had been laughing and laughing as they watched the people of those forces being intercepted and left to die. In the end, retribution came so quickly. Those people of those forces didn't die much. They had been abandoned by the higher-ups. They had replaced the role of those people of those forces. They had become cannon fodder. The group of disciples of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wailed loudly, their faces filled with indescribable despair. However, Beast Taming King Guguju and the others didn't turn back to look at them. Taking advantage of them holding back the blood-colored figures that were rushing over, beast-taming King Guguju and Celestial Palace's higher-ups rushed in the direction of Luo Qingtong, and the others at an extremely fast speed. The latter and the others were already approaching the cave. The surrounding blood-colored figures were getting fewer and fewer. It seemed that there were no more blood-colored celestial jade bones in the vicinity of the cave. When Luo Qingtong and the others were about 100 meters away from the entrance of the cave, all the blood-colored figures had disappeared. The blood-colored figures that had been killed and blocked by Luo Qingtong, and the others behind them. When Luo Qingtong and the others entered within 100 meters of the cave, they were shocked. They no longer rushed in this direction to attack them. Instead, they stood 100 meters away from the cave. It let out a sharp roar at them, emitting sound waves that ordinary people couldn't hear. It was clear that they did not dare to approach this place. Seeing this, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. Her gaze swept across the hole in front of her, which seemed to be flickering with an indistinct light, as the bloody light in her eyes flickered intensely. It was at this moment that the beast-taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others abandoned their disciples and rushed over to the scene. Soon he rushed behind Luo Qingtong and the others. "Bitch, let's see where you can run to this time." The beast-tamer King Guguju and the Celestial Palace Master looked indescribably ferocious. They had abandoned a group of elite disciples. This debt must be repaid with blood by Luo Qingtong. Seeing the beast-tamer King Guguju and the others rushing over, the people from the various forces were instantly flustered. "What should we do? Beast-tamer King Guguju and the others are coming." Everyone's hearts were indescribably panicked. Beast-tamer King Guguju and the others were the top experts of the first-rate sects. Moreover, they were the top experts of the hidden world. Among the people from the various forces, the strongest was only in the Sage Emperor realm. Even if there were many people, they were absolutely no match for them. Seeing the group of beast-tamer King's Valley and Celestial Palace's upper echelons rushing over, the people from the various forces suddenly trembled. Miss Tong?" Chapter 2072. However, there were no longer any traces of those blood-red figures around. What was Luo Qingtong going to use to deal with beast-tamer King Guguju and the others? Rush into that cave. Who knew if there was a path inside? Even if there was a path, with the strength of beast-tamer King Guguju and the others, it was enough to catch up with them and kill them all before they could leave. The crowd never thought that beast-tamer King Guguju and the others would catch up with them so quickly. The other party was really more than a little ruthless. They were even willing to abandon their own sect's elite disciples. The crowd thought in their hearts, unspeakable fear and terror. At this moment, beast-tamer King Guguju's voice rang out. "Everyone who is on Luo Qingtong's side, leave immediately. I'll spare your lives." Beast-tamer King Guguju's expression was ruthless. Naturally, he said this not because he was merciful and wanted to let these people off. It was because Luo Qingtong would no longer use these people to cause trouble. These people were helping Luo Qingtong. Wasn't it because the other two sects wanted to kill them and send them to their deaths? Now that he let them off, he didn't believe that they wouldn't leave in this desperate situation. Luo Qingtong, this bitch, without these people to rely on. He wanted to see what she could do. This time, he must kill her here. He would never allow this person who spied on their sect's secrets to live. What did beast-tamer King Guguju say? He's going to let us go. The crowd was in an uproar. Beast-tamer King Guguju's words were too attractive to them. Even if they knew that even if they left, the other party might not let them go after they left the land of the deceased immortals. But that was a matter for the future, wasn't it? What's more, when they left the land of the deceased immortals, they could completely unite and form an alliance. No matter which first-class sect they joined in the future, they could negotiate with beast-tamer King Valley and survive. It was better than dying here now. Everyone's hearts were shaken as they thought this. They looked at Luo Qingtong in the middle of them. At this moment, Yunxi grabbed Luo Qingtong's sleeve and stood up, saying, "You can't be so ungrateful. If it wasn't for Qingtong, you would have all died under the conspiracy of beast-tamer King Valley and Celestial Palace. Have you forgotten who saved you just now?" What's the difference between abandoning her and going back on your word? The Beast Tamer King Valley and the others were in front of the cave. Qingtong was the cave. As long as these people were willing to protect Luo Qingtong and rush into the cave, they could also threaten the Beast Taming King's Valley to let them leave. Thinking of this, Yinshi was very anxious. She desperately tried to persuade the people of the various forces. But the latter and the others had been bewitched by Beast Tamer King Guguju's promise. In the case of Hope, who cared whether Luo Qingtong was dead or alive? They had made a deal with Luo Qingtong just because they wanted to leave this place. Now that Beast Tamer King Guguju had promised to let them go, why should they continue to fight to the death with the other party? Chapter 2073. The crowd snorted coldly at Yinshi. What do you mean by ungrateful? It's just a deal between us and Luo Qingtong. We keep her safe, and she keeps us safe. Isn't that right? We've already fulfilled our promise. Don't make it sound like we owe her. However, everyone knew in their hearts that they really owed Luo Qingtong. With the ability that the girl had shown, if she hadn't wanted to get something in the depths of the Broken Star Valley, she wouldn't have exposed her identity at all. It would have been easy for her to leave. But they relied on Luo Qingtong to survive among these blood-colored figures. If it hadn't been for Luo Qingtong, they would have been killed by those bloody figures under the coercion of the Beast Taming King's Valley and the Celestial Palace. But even so, they wouldn't admit it. Otherwise, wouldn't they really be ungrateful people? Yinshi looked at their shameless faces, and she was so angry that she trembled all over. These people were simply too shameless. If it hadn't been for Luo Qingtong, they would all be dead. Now they were saying that they didn't owe Luo Qingtong anything? How could they say that they didn't owe her a life? Yinshi was so angry that she wanted to continue arguing with them. At this moment, Luo Qingtong had also retracted her gaze from the entrance of the cave. Then she looked at the group of people with an indifferent expression and said, "Okay. If you want to leave, you can leave now." Qingtong. Yinshi was anxious. Although she and Luo Qingtong didn't know each other very well. Seriously speaking, Luo Qingtong had helped her several times, whether it was indirectly or directly. And this time, if it hadn't been for Luo Qingtong, she wouldn't have been able to survive until now. Looking at how the Yin family's people had all disappeared, it was obvious. At this moment, the people guarding Luo Qingtong were all experts from various sections. She was the only one whose strength was extremely low, yet she was completely unharmed. Yinshi knew what it meant to be grateful. But now, the group in front of her relied on Luo Qingtong to survive. They relied on Luo Qingtong to break free from the oppression of Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. And now, because of the Beast Tamer King Guguju's words, he abandoned Luo Qingtong. How hateful! Why did Luo Qingtong agree to let them go? If she let them go, how was she going to deal with the Beast Tamer Valley Master and the others? There's no need to say anymore. Upon seeing Yinshi's gaze, Luo Qingtong knew what she was thinking. Her expression was indifferent. These people, even if you don't let them go, they won't stay. Why force it? If you want to leave, all of you can leave. As she spoke, she looked at Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others who had broken through the obstruction of those blood-colored figures and entered the range of the cave. Now that the latter and the others were no longer obstructed by those blood-colored figures, they rushed toward them with a ferocious expression. Their speed was as fast as lightning. Seeing this scene, the people of those forces didn't dare to stay any longer. They said hypocritically, "Miss Tong is still the most righteous one. Miss Tong, since you've said so, we won't meet again. Goodbye." As the group spoke, they bypassed Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others and rushed toward the outside. In their hearts, they were confident that they could rush out the way they had just rushed in. At most, without Luo Qingtong, some people who weren't strong enough might be unlucky, but most people should be fine. Chapter 2074. They were full of confidence, but they didn't realize that when they left, Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She looked in the direction they left, and the corners of her lips curled up. "Naturally, we'll never meet again." The smile on her lips was charming, but as cold as a knife. How could it be so easy to take advantage of her? These people were really thinking too much. If they had really accompanied her to the end, then no matter whether they succeeded or not, she would have brought all the survivors away safely. But since they had chosen to abandon her, then they couldn't blame her for taking back everything she had promised before. Want to leave this place alive? Sure. Maybe it would be faster in the dream. Luo Qingtong's sleeves fluttered slightly. Bang bang bang. A series of slight explosions sounded. All the auras that she had attached to those blood-colored figures were triggered and exploded by her. Those people thought that Luo Qingtong could see those blood-colored figures and mark them. It was because Luo Qingtong had that treasure map. Therefore, they thought that Luo Qingtong had already used the method taught in that treasure map to make those blood-colored figures appear. In this way, even if Luo Qingtong was gone, they could still leave this place using the method they had used to rush in. At most, they would have to pay a price. But they didn't know that it was Luo Qingtong's eye technique that had seen through those blood-colored figures. And it was Luo Qingtong's aura that had marked those blood-colored figures. As long as she was willing, these marks could all be destroyed. Bang bang bang. Those auras all exploded in an instant. And a group of people rushed into those blood-colored figures with great momentum, anxious to leave. After rushing halfway, they suddenly felt that something was wrong. Why did the auras of those blood-colored figures disappear all of a sudden? There were no more traces of those blood-colored figures in front of them at this moment. However, the miserable cries around him continued to ring out one after another. A Saint Emperor was controlled by those blood-colored figures in front of everyone, and his intestines were pierced through, and he died. Finally, he dragged his horribly broken body and joined the corpses controlled by those blood-colored figures, and rushed towards the crowd. The crowd screamed shrilly, desperately trying to retreat. But after losing the auras of those blood-colored figures, they had no way to effectively avoid the other party's attacks, and there was no way to leave their range. They could only be surrounded by them and constantly attacked to death. Only now did they realize how stupid their decision to give up on Luo Qingtong was. If they had known that they couldn't escape death in the end, they would have followed behind Luo Qingtong to fight against the people of the Beast King Valley and find a chance to live. It was much better than dying at the hands of these blood-red figures. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. They could only be killed by those blood-red figures in their endless regret. And Luo Qingtong of the Saint Emperor, SSST of Est bitch, prepared to die. Seeing that there was no one else beside Luo Qingtong except for Yin Shi and the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint, Gu Guzhu and the others sneered. The other party must die. Chapter 2075. Seeing them rushing over, Yin Shi, who was beside Luo Qingtong, turned pale. The corners of her lips twitched. She wanted to tell Luo Qingtong to run. But at this time, where could Luo Qingtong run? The beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others didn't come alone, nor were they ordinary powerhouses. With so many of them coming, even if Luo Qingtong had that group of people by her side, she might not be able to escape from their pursuit. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong didn't have many people by her side. Apart from herself, there was only one other person by Luo Qingtong's side. Under such circumstances, unless that person was a powerhouse above the venerable realm, otherwise, it would be impossible to save Luo Qingtong from the lineup of the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others. Yin Shi's heart was filled with despair, but she didn't have the thought of leaving Luo Qingtong behind. Just as she thought before, if it weren't for Luo Qingtong taking care of her, she wouldn't have survived until now. She would have been killed by those blood-red figures long ago. Since that was the case, this could be considered as repaying Luo Qingtong's life. Thinking of this, she didn't say anything. She just pursed her lips tightly and closed her eyes. She knew that with her little strength, even if she rushed up to Luo Qingtong and risked her life, she wouldn't be able to stop the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others for even half a breath. It wouldn't be a waste of effort. It would also save her from being a burden to Luo Qingtong. When she closed her eyes, Luo Qingtong looked at the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others rushing toward her. She narrowed her eyes slightly, then tilted her head and said to Yunxi, "Follow me closely. Look after her." The latter words were naturally said to Little Pig, who was hiding on the corpse puppet of the great young saint. Since Yunxi had chosen to stay with her, Luo Qingtong would try her best to save her life. Of course, if they really couldn't keep it, there was nothing they could do. After all, Yunxi's cultivation level was relatively weak. Luo Qingtong didn't dare to make a complete guarantee. It all depended on her luck. Shua. The moment Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, the energy in her hand shot towards the entrance of the cave. Luo Qingtong and the others were still halfway to the entrance of the cave. If Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others didn't rush over, this distance was naturally nothing for Luo Qingtong. However, the people from Beast Taming King's Valley were already 100 meters away from the cave. They would reach Luo Qingtong in the blink of an eye. If Luo Qingtong were to run towards the cave, she would be exposing her rear to Beast Taming King Guguju's group. She wasn't afraid of Beast Tamer King Guguju's attack, by relying on her eye technique. However, he was accompanied by a group of high-level experts from Beast Tamer King's Valley and Celestial Palace. Luo Qingtong would be crazy to expose her back to the enemy. Therefore, she wouldn't run. She would only let the people from Beast Tamer King's Valley run. Bang! Luo Qingtong's attack directly hit the entrance of the cave. With a buzzing sound, transparent ripples suddenly spread out from the entrance of the cave. It turned out that the entrance of the cave seemed to be sealed by an invisible door. When Luo Qingtong's attack was launched, the invisible door instantly rippled open. Chapter 2076. Translations. The ripples of laws on it vibrated violently, and the invisible door suddenly exploded. At this moment, a boundless blood-red color gushed out. Boom boom boom. Roar. The violent explosion mixed with a sharp and resounding roar resounded in the depths of Shattered Star Valley. In Luo Qingtong's bloody eyes, a huge blood-colored shadow suddenly rushed out of the broken transparent door. It turned out that the transparent door was a seal. Sealed inside was a huge blood-colored immortal jade bone. At this moment, it suddenly screamed and rushed out from inside. This blood-colored shadow was huge, almost 10 times bigger than the other blood-colored figures outside. The blood-colored aura surrounding it was also very dense. Not only that, its voice was loud and deafening. Even Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others, who couldn't hear its sound waves, felt a stabbing pain in their heads. After all, these blood-colored figures all relied on spiritual energy to attack. And this blood-colored figure's strength was even above the other blood-colored figures by many times. Roar. It screamed sharply and rushed towards Luo Qingtong and the others, because the girl was the closest to it. And when it attacked, Luo Qingtong's body had already turned. Then her body flashed, and she took a mysterious step, following the path calculated by her bloody eyes. With a swoosh, she rushed towards Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. The latter and the others hated Luo Qingtong to the bone, so they were prepared to rush in front of her and ruthlessly end her. But who would have thought that Luo Qingtong would make such an unexpected move in such a situation? Before they could react, they saw Luo Qingtong attack the cave, and then rush towards them. Quick, attack and kill her. When Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others reacted, Luo Qingtong had already rushed in front of them. An extremely bad premonition flashed in his heart. Beast Tamer King Guguju was flustered and exasperated, and ordered his people to attack. At the same time, he also prepared to attack Luo Qingtong. But it was too late. At such a close distance, they had no time to attack. And because they had to surround Luo Qingtong and not let her escape, their formation was concave in a semicircle. And Luo Qingtong was in the middle of their concave formation. If they attacked, they could easily injure others. Therefore, when they heard Beast Tamer King Guguju's words, the higher-ups of Beast Tamer King's Valley and Celestial Palace hesitated subconsciously. In just a moment, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared behind them. And behind her, Yunxi and the Great Yong Saint's corpse puppet followed closely. Yunxi was stunned when Luo Qingtong opened her mouth. Before she could open her eyes, Little Pig controlled the Great Yong Saint's corpse puppet to grab her and chase after Luo Qingtong. almost at the same time that Luo Qingtong appeared behind beast tamer King Guguju and the others. The two figures also appeared behind beast tamer King Guguju and the others. Beast tamer King Guguju's voice was filled with shock and anger. Before they could turn around. Ah! Chapter 2077. Then there was a Pucci. One of the higher-ups of the Celestial Palace at the edge of the group let out a shrill scream. In an instant he was torn in half by an invisible giant hand. Blood splattered out. Blood splattered all over the faces of the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace's upper echelons. Soon after, another beast-taming King Valley's upper echelon let out a miserable shriek as he followed in the footsteps of the Celestial Palace's upper echelon. Puff puff puff. These executives of Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace were all above the Saint Emperor realm. But they couldn't resist at all in front of that invisible figure. That huge blood-colored figure's mental attack first invaded their brains and controlled their movements, then suddenly raised its hand and tore them apart. In the blink of an eye, the two higher-ups were completely dead. As for the huge blood-red shadow, it only looked at them indifferently and had no intention of possessing them. Instead, it continued to scream and rush toward Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. Bang bang! In the blink of an eye, two higher-ups from the beast-taming King's Valley and Extreme Celestial Palace died. And Guguju and the others didn't even see the face of the enemy. It's that damn thing, the Blood Immortal Jade Bones transformation. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others already knew from Luo Qingtong's words that it was the Blood Immortal Jade Bones transformation that controlled the bloody corpse. Now, seeing how the blood-colored figure tore apart the two executives of Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace, it was very clear that this blood-colored figure's strength was above the Saint Emperor realm. Damn it, Luo Qingtong just attacked the cave to release this damn thing. How did she know that there was this damn thing behind the cave, and that there was a seal at the entrance? No wonder that bitch didn't run in the direction of the cave when they rushed over. Logically speaking, regardless of whether it was useful or not, the other party should have given it a try. In the end, Luo Qingtong just stood there and didn't move. Beast Tamer King Guguju thought that she knew that she couldn't escape, so she just stood there and waited for death. However, she didn't expect that she had seen through the mystery of the cave entrance, so she deliberately didn't run over. Otherwise, the one who would face the blood-red phantom and be torn to shreds would definitely be that B*TCH. Thinking of this, the Beast Tamer King Guguju gritted his teeth in anger. As for Luo Qingtong, she didn't stop after passing by the higher-ups of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. Her figure flashed as she stomped her foot in the air, bypassing Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others as she charged toward the cave. Only then did Yunxi return to her senses. She immediately coordinated with the Great Yong Saint Corpse puppet beside her, and followed Luo Qingtong's figure as they rushed towards the cave. Her heart was filled with indescribable surprise and shock. She didn't expect that Luo Qingtong had such a backup plan. It turned out that there were blood-red phantoms near the cave, but they were sealed in the cave. No wonder those blood-red phantoms stopped 100 meters away and didn't dare to approach here. It turned out that there were even more ferocious and terrifying blood-red phantoms. If those people knew that Luo Qingtong had such a backup plan, they would definitely regret leaving, right? After all, even if they could break out of the encirclement of those blood-red phantoms and leave Broken Stars Valley, they would have to pay a price. It was far more advantageous to follow Luo Qingtong. Chapter 2078. However, Yunxi didn't know that those people didn't just choose the wrong path. There was no turning back. Surrounded and attacked by those blood-colored figures, they were all dead. When Luo Qingtong and the others rushed into the cave, the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were furious and wanted to chase after them. However, the huge blood-colored figure was entangling them so tightly that they couldn't get away. This blood-colored figure was able to exert the power of the Holy Spirit realm. However, because of its huge size and the fact that it used spiritual attacks, the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others couldn't do anything to it. Because they couldn't see its figure, they couldn't go around it and split up to chase after Luo Qingtong. Suddenly, he was blocked outside the cave. He was so angry that he was stamping with rage. This time, the Beast Tamer King Guguju couldn't abandon the higher-ups of the Beast Tamer King Valley and Celestial Palace like he did with the disciples of the Beast Tamer King Valley and Celestial Palace. If he did that, he would be the only one at a disadvantage. What's more, those disciples who were abandoned could be trained again. However, once the higher-ups of the Beast Tamer King Valley were lost, the Beast Tamer King Valley would become an empty shell. At that time, any mid-level sect could destroy the Beast Tamer King Valley. What was the use of having a complete Beast Tamer technique? Therefore, the Beast Tamer King Guguju, the Dark Elder, and the other holy venerables were forced to stay where they were and didn't dare to chase after Luo Qingtong. Their faces were twisted with rage, like that of a ghost. Luo Qingtong glanced at them indifferently and rushed into the cave. These people from the Beast Tamer King Valley and Celestial Palace used others as bait and shields before. They probably didn't expect to become her bait and shield, right? She really had to thank them for luring that huge blood-colored figure away for her. Luo Qingtong, Yun Shi, and the Sherpuppet rushed into the cave. This place was extremely deep and spacious. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Her gaze swept over the path that led straight into the depths of the forest, and she led Yun Shi and Shi Shao into the depths of the forest. While Luo Qingtong, Yun Shi, Shi Shao, and the others were heading into the depths of the cave. As the Beast Tamer King Guguju, the Celestial Palace Master, and the others fought against the Blood Immortal Jade Bone's transformation, they discovered that as the Blood Immortal Jade Bone absorbed more and more blood essence, its formless silhouette was slowly showing some shape. This was something they hadn't noticed before. Perhaps it was because there were too many crimson figures before, and the amount of blood essence and life force allocated to each figure was too little. That was why such an effect was not present. However, there was only one blood-red figure here, and they were all strong enough, so the situation slowly became apparent. After realizing this, the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were overjoyed. The Beast Tamer King Guguju sternly shouted, "Quick, let us bleed and let it suck. Drink to your heart's content." As long as the Blood Immortal Jade Bone's figure was exposed, they wouldn't be afraid that they couldn't deal with it. Luo Qingtong, you bitch, just you wait. Even if you entered the cave first and obtained something, I will make you spit it all out. The Beast Tamer King Guguju's expression was sinister, and he ordered everyone to bleed immediately. The others also noticed the change in the Blood Immortal Jade Bone, and didn't dare to hesitate. Chapter 2079. It was better than them losing their lives. One had to know that other than the Beast Taming King Valley Master and a few others, the rest of them weren't a match for the blood-colored shadow. If they didn't hurry to feed this bloody shadow, would they wait for it to kill them and use their lives to fill its body? The crowd scrambled to feed the crimson figure with their blood. Luo Qingtong and Yin Shi had already reached the depths of the cave. This place seemed to have been built into a stone room. The inside was brightly lit, and there were huge luminous pearls embedded in the walls. The bright lights of the pearls converged together like a ray of light, illuminating the depths of the cave. In the depths of the cave, a corpse sat on a futon. In front of the corpse, on the wall at the end of the cave, there were words engraved. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. The fifth Beast Tamer Law Formula. She looked at the words engraved on the wall, and clearly recognized that it was the content of the fifth Beast Tamer Law Formula. Because the contents of the first four were related to each other, the fifth Beast Tamer Law Formula should be no exception. Luo Qingtong compared the contents of the first four Beast Tamer Law Formulas that she had memorized before, and soon determined that what was engraved on the wall was the content of the fifth Beast Tamer Law Formula. However, next to the content of the Beast Tamer Law Formula, there were murals. These murals seemed to have been carved by someone in a hurry. They were very messy, and the lines were very simple. Because of the erosion of countless years, many of the images had been broken, and there were no traces of them. The whole murals were very messy and mottled. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed, and she carefully identified the murals. She found that what was engraved on them seemed to be related to the land of the fallen immortals. The bloody light in her eyes suddenly skyrocketed. The real reason for the formation of the land of the fallen immortals was very mysterious. For a long time, the people of the hidden world only knew that the land of the fallen immortals was formed because the powerhouses of the outer realms were fighting over some treasure. The result was that all of them perished together in the true Spill continent's hidden world. For some unknown reason, no one had passed down any information about the treasure. Hence, for so many years, everyone in the hidden world only knew that there was a treasure in the immortal graveyard. However, they did not know what the treasure that caused so many foreign experts to fight over it was. At this moment, Luo Qingtong might be able to find out the reason behind the murals. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately used her dojutsu to restore the content of the missing images. The contents of the murals were imprinted in her pupils. Countless lines of light flashed, following the traces that might exist, constantly drawing and filling up the missing murals in her pupils. Soon, the image that was most likely the closest to the original image was restored by her. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed, and she looked at these images one by one. The first image said that the powerhouses of the outer realms received the news and came to the hidden world. Then the second image said that they went to a place together. The third image said that they began to fight. Chapter 2080. Her gaze suddenly froze. She saw on one of the pictures. Those people all fell to the ground. In the middle of their bodies, there was a huge ball of light that looked like a living thing. Within it, there was a thump, 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 thump. What was this? Was this the treasure that those people were fighting for? Luo Qingtong's eyes focused on the picture, and then she continued to look. He saw a person dragging his broken body out of the cave, and finally collapsed in a cave. The paintings that followed were meant to explain how the person had managed to carve these scenes onto the wall at the end of his life. Clearly, the person on the mural was the corpse in the cave. She didn't know how he managed to survive this disaster and draw these pictures. However, it was clear that his strength was much stronger than those who had died near the ball of light. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to drag his last breath to appear here and draw these pictures. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she continued to read. By the time she saw the last image, there was a clear difference in the image. What was drawn on it was the scene of the corpse in the cave passing away in a sitting posture. The lines on the picture were smooth and smooth. The picture that was revealed was composed of small words. It turned out that the whole picture was actually a letter. Luo Qingtong looked at the content of the picture carefully. My name is Zhuge 13. If there is a fated person who comes to this cave, please bring my relics back to my family, the Zhuge family. The Zhuge family is the #1 beast tamer family in the extraterritorial domain. We created a unique beast taming method that allows people who don't have beast taming soul seals to contract and tame demonic beasts. From then on, their combat power will increase, and their strength won't lose to those who have soul seals. Today, I am the 94th generation great-grandson of the Zhuge family. Because I heard about the sector beast, I came to this remote waste domain, a low-level continent. In the end, I died here. This is my fate. However, I've just finished improving the clan's cultivation method, so that the demon beasts contracted by the clan's cultivation method can increase their strength together with the contractor, complementing each other. Although I can't solve the problem of the beast taming technique only being able to contract demonic beasts that are weaker than me, I've already formed the embryonic form of a heaven and earth contract. Now that I've died here, I hope that the fated person will be able to return my cultivation methods and personal belongings to the Zhuge family. For this, I am willing to repay you with my inheritance. I will use my own beast mark to bestow upon the fated one. A beast mark was a mark condensed by a beast tamer's beast taming technique. Through the use of the seal, one could contract a demonic beast. The stronger a beast tamer was, the more powerful the beast tamer's imprint would be. Generally speaking, the beast mark cultivated by a beast tamer was related to their strength. No matter how strong he was, his beast mark would be the same. However, there were exceptions, and that was the gift of beast marks. Even if the person who received the beast mark was not strong enough, they would still be able to form a contract with a stronger demonic beast. As long as the demonic beast's strength was below the level of the beast mark, it would suffice. Now this man named Juga 13 was going to give away the beast mark that he had cultivated. Chapter 2081. Because what the other party had was his beast mark. And this man named Juga Shursan was able to survive until the end in that battle, where he killed all the extraterrestrial experts. His strength was unknown. The demonic beasts contracted by his beast mark were naturally not below him in strength. Whoever could get his beast mark would really be rich. However, this beast mark inheritance was not very attractive to Luo Qingtong. After all, she already had the heaven and earth contract. With this contract, Luo Qingtong could even contract a divine beast if she wanted to. But Juga Shursan's beast mark inheritance could only contract demonic beasts that were weaker than him in strength. This was too weak for Luo Qingtong. However, the demonic beasts contracted by Luo Qingtong's heaven and earth contract would be temporarily suppressed if the contractor's strength was weak. But Juga Shursan's beast mark inheritance did not have this restriction. As long as the demonic beasts were below his level, he could contract and control them. And the demonic beast's strength would not be restricted at all. In other words, even if an ordinary person obtained his beast mark inheritance, as long as he could contract a powerful demonic beast, he could use this demonic beast's strength to beat others. Comparing these two, in the long run, the heaven and earth contract was naturally better. But in the short run, Juga Shursan's beast mark inheritance could play a greater role. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong decided to accept this beast mark inheritance. After all, with her current strength, she really needed to improve. As for his last wish, if there was a chance in the future, she would naturally fulfill it for him. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately reached out to the package that Juga Shursan's corpse was holding. This package was in the arms of Juga Shursan's corpse. The latter's head was lowered, and his hands were tightly crossed as he hugged the package tightly. Obviously, this package was his belongings. At the same time, it was also where the beast-taming incantation and inheritance was. This Juga Shursan was also a talent to be able to improve such a beast-taming incantation. Luo Qingtong came for the 5th beast-taming incantation. However, he did not expect that the best thing was not that, but the cultivation method improved by Juga 13. If she guessed correctly, the 5th beast-taming incantation, and the first 4 beast-taming incantations would only be the beast-taming incantation practiced by the Juga family. It was far inferior to the spell improved by Juga 13. The spell improved by the latter was a weaker version of the heaven and earth contract. To be able to do this, Juga 13 was indeed a rare genius. His position in the Juga family must not be weak. It was a pity that he had died here. Who knew what the sector beast he had been talking about was? It actually attracted so many foreign experts to fight over it. Furthermore, none of these people had leaked any information. Did they really value this sector beast that much? Luo Qingtong's mind was racing. However, the movements of his hands did not stop at all. Whoosh! She grabbed the black package and pulled it out of Juga Shursan's body and held it in her hand. "Let's go," she said to Yin Shi and Little Pig. The people from the beast-taming valley and the celestial palace were still outside. She had to leave while the giant blood-red shadow was holding them back. Chapter 2082. Translations. Qingtong, be careful. Yin Shi and the great Yong Saint Corpse puppet stood nearby, watching Luo Qingtong study the murals and words. Although they didn't know what those things were, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Luo Qingtong seemed to be studying something. She didn't dare to disturb Luo Qingtong, so she stood there motionless. Little Pig had already lifted the veil on the great Yong Saint Corpse puppet's head and poked his head out from the puppet's arms, looking at the murals and words on the wall. He didn't have the blood eyes like Luo Qingtong, which could restore the images on the murals. After studying for a long time, he could vaguely make out some things. Suddenly, he swept his gaze around and saw a huge ball of light that seemed to be alive. This seems to be. He widened his eyes, trying his best to distinguish the appearance of this ball of light. Then he heard Luo Qingtong's voice calling for them to leave. He was just about to ask Luo Qingtong to wait. Then he looked up and saw a scene that made him extremely shocked. "Quick! Get out of the way!" He hopped his little hooves and hurriedly shouted at Luo Qingtong. His voice and Yinxi's scream sounded at almost the same time. When Luo Qingtong saw the sudden change in their expressions, she immediately felt that something was wrong behind her. Bang! Her figure suddenly flashed and dodged to the side. Then a huge crater was blasted open on the ground where she had been standing. The waves of power that had burst out from the hole were extremely violent. The strong wind and gravel that flew in all directions cut her skin like sharp blades. In just an instant, several bloody wounds appeared on Luo Qingtong's body and face. Such a violent force, such a terrifying power, just the aftermath alone was enough to injure Luo Qingtong. And this was under the circumstance that she had clearly dodged the attack. The girl's expression instantly turned grave. Venerable realm. Sensing the power in the air that could almost break all laws, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. This power carried the aura of a power above the venerable realm. Although it was only a trace, it carried a destructive power. This was a power of another level, far above the Saint realm. It was far from being comparable to any power in the Saint realm. Any power above the Sage realm, including the Holy Venerate realm, appeared insignificant in front of this wisp of power. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She looked behind her. Behind where she had just stood, the corpse that had been sitting on the futon suddenly stood up. Its head slowly lifted slowly, revealing a greenish-black and shriveled face. Its eyes were only flickers with a ruthlessness and ferociousness. In corpse. The corpse puppet's body Zhuge Shirsan had been transformed into a corpse. Moreover, it was an extremely formidable Yin corpse that was able to emit a trace of an Exalt realm aura. Just how strong was the other party previously? It was said that after a corpse transformed into a Yin corpse, it only had 1/10 of its original strength, or even less. This Zhuge Shirsan's corpse had obviously just been transformed. But the aura and strength revealed by this clubhouse was already comparable to that of the venerable realm. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She could clearly feel the impending crisis. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.